So the 18th of June is also the beginning of load-in for the Great American State Fair. So traffic, who knows what it might be like. So just take that under consideration as we plan ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Finally, Mr. Chairman, the month of May is always a time for anniversaries here at the commission. We mark the 116th anniversary of the establishment of the Commission of Fine Arts earlier this week, the 17th of May, 1910. And also earlier this week, the 96th anniversary of the Shipstead Loose Act, which was enacted on the 16th of May, 1930. So those are amazing. With Georgetown, that has a September birthday. Anyway, that concludes our administrative items. Are there any other comments? All right, then we will begin with our submissions and reviews, beginning with the adoptions of our appendices. The first, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. There's an item that I neglected to report on. We did meet with the chair, represent the chair, in fact, of the National Endowment of the Arts, or representative of the chair of the National Endowment of the Humanities, and our own chair at the very last of April to consider applications for the grant program which we administer called the National Capital Arts and Cultural Affairs Program. This is a program which supports medium to larger size arts institutions based in Washington, dedicated to the performance and exhibit and presentation of arts at a professional level. And it's for money that is hard to raise. It's for administrative operations. So we're glad to see that that part is done. We are in the process now of taking all of those, your decision and the grant monies are allocated by formula, which you approved, and we will be getting those out hopefully within the next, I don't know, certainly in June, probably early June. So looking forward to that. We're happy to support the arts organizations in DC. We've been doing it since 1989. The program goes back to 1986. So it's a nice way to support the cultural life here in the nation's capital. So we now move on to submissions and reviews, beginning with adoptions of appendices. The first is from would be Carlton Hart presenting the May 2026 consent calendar and delegated items. Carlton.
Thank you, Secretary Luthi. The consent items, there are 9 consent items that are listed. There have been no changes since it was distributed to you last week. And all we need to move forward is for your vote for approval. Thank you.
All right, James, would you make a motion for us?
Chairman, motion to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, and we will be transmitting those actions along to those applicants. Then Shipstead Loose Act Appendix for May 2026. Vivian Lee is here to present that.
Good morning. There are 15 cases on the final Shipstead Loose Act Appendix, plus 1 agenda case that will be presented in front of the Commission today. Since the draft appendix was issued, we make the following changes. We held 2 cases open for review at a future month, which are, for the record, SL 26-087, 6200 Oregon Avenue Northwest, and SL 26-097, 4000 18th Street Northwest. We're waiting for supplemental materials on 8 cases. We expect to continue working with the applicants to resolve minor issues in the next couple of weeks. The vote of the Commission today to approve the appendix will allow us to move these projects forward. Thank you.
All right, so have we, Mr. Vice Chairman, would you?
Same motion to approve the Shipstead Loose Act application.
Second.
Did you vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you, and we will transmit those recommendations back to the District of Columbia, who manages the actual part of their permitting process, as is the 3rd appendix for the Old Georgetown Act, May 2026. Ms. Berger will introduce that.
Good morning. We have 40 applications on the Old Georgetown appendix for this month. This is the same number we had on the draft appendix. So your vote this morning allows us to move forward with those applications.
Motion to approve.
One second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we will be also sending those back to the District of Columbia. And then, Mr. Chairman, we will begin looking at the agenda cases. Now, to clarify, your guidance, just prior to the meeting was that you would like to approve some agenda cases without the formal presentation based on your review of the material and it's
That is correct.
following
Right.
the
So-
advice you've given. There's an opportunity to give very minor comments, but we will just take those forward now before we get into the bigger cases that you're hearing. So there are two cases, both coming to us from the DC Department of General Services on behalf of the DC Public Schools. First is item D1 of CFA 26-3. This is Whittier Elementary School, 6201 Fifth Street Northwest. Renovations and additions to the building and landscape. This is a concept application that was seen previously, but you felt that it was responsive, and so you are, I think your recommendation is to go ahead and approve what was proposed without without the presentation. So
So moved.
Yes. Thank you. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
I should have said, this isn't quite, now this is just at the concept.
Right.
Would you like to see it again as a final design? In which case you have to do nothing else, or you can delegate.
Yeah, my motion is only to approve it as concept and then we'll be back.
You can
Yeah, sure.
evaluate
Yeah.
it
Yep.
for final. Okay.
Yep.
Now the second one, is item D2, May 26-4, Charles Hart Middle School, 601 Mississippi Avenue, renovations and additions to the building and landscape. This is a final design. Again, you've indicated, your willingness to approve that as a final design.
Correct. And so
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
All right, and we will inform the applicant groups on those that they don't need to present today and the resolution. All right, so the first case for review in the session is submitted by the Department of Interior in cooperation with the Executive Office of the President. This is a revised concept design for a new memorial arch on Memorial Circle at the intersection of the George Washington Memorial Parkway and the axis of Memorial Bridge from and Memorial Avenue, connecting the Lincoln Memorial to Arlington National Cemetery and up the hill to Arlington House. The project was first reviewed in concept at the last CFA meeting held on April 16th, where it was approved with numerous comments, including some concern that the large structure would block the intended views between the cemetery once the estate of Confederate General Robert E. Lee and the Lincoln Memorial. There was a recommendation to try to create secondary open archways within the legs of the central arch to make it visually more open, particularly to oblique views. Second, there was a suggestion to remove the grouping of monumental winged structures from the top of the arch, and a recommendation to simplify the proposed program of sculpture generally, such as the arch's keystones, friezes, panels, and lions at the base of the arch, as well as to provide more information on the art that would be proposed. Third, recommended working on the design of the site, including changing pedestrian access from tunnels to crosswalks and simplifying the approaches to the plazas surrounding the arch. There was a recommendation to refine the design of the traffic circle and landscape setting itself, perhaps using paving cobbles or other materials to, design the traffic and control vehicular access around the circle. So, in the revised submission, the project team has addressed many of these issues, as well as providing additional information about the program and spatial arrangement in the interior arch. There's obviously a model that was created in response to the request to have a model extending literally all the way from the Capitol to the ridge of Arlington House. And there's other views which have been generated to study the impact of the project. So I think that with that, we will introduce Nicholas Charbonneau, who's the principal of Harrison Design, to present the project. Is that, are you ready? Thank you. Thank you. And because we're trying our very best to get good video, audio recording, yeah, make sure that you're as close to the mic as you can. Thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on.
You just have to be close.
Very good. Hello, Chairman Cook and members of the commission. It is my pleasure to present the revised design documents for the Triumphal Arch proposed for our nation's capital to serve as an enduring, grand, and noble gateway into the city and celebrate the 250 years since the founding of our great nation. As the commission saw previously in the presentation, pictured is the site plan of Memorial Avenue corridor, the mile-long axial composition from the Lincoln Memorial to the Military Women's Memorial. The site of the proposed arch is within Memorial Circle located on Columbia Island, which is an existing 300-foot wide grass-covered area in the circle, in the traffic circle. Since we're on the topic of the site, I'd like to direct the commission's attention to the 3D printed site plan, which is before you. At the last hearing, there was a question regarding the elevations above sea level of each of the monuments and their relative heights. And I'll just read off that information here for the record. The Capitol building is 88 feet above sea level, and it is 280 feet tall, which makes it 376 feet total above sea level. The Washington Monument, its base is 44 feet above sea level, and it is 555 feet tall, making it nearly 600 feet total above sea level. The Lincoln is 43 feet above sea level, and it's 99 feet tall, making it 142 feet above sea level. And Arlington House is 171 feet above sea level, and it is 47 feet tall, making it 218 feet above sea level. And what we're proposing here at the Arlington Memorial Circle, that is 25 feet above sea level, and the main structure is 166 feet tall, making it 191 feet tall, with the statuary above would make it 275 feet. All right, now while the siting of the arch within Memorial Circle has not changed since the last presentation, there have been significant revisions made to the ways in which visitors will access Memorial Circle from the adjacent units. The concept of accessing the site via tunnels has been abandoned based on the commission's concerns surrounding security, safety, and aesthetics. The raised platform and the associated steps and ramps have also been eliminated, and the proposed arch will instead be situated at the current elevation of Memorial Circle and be accessed exclusively by at-grade crossings. In concert with the National Park Service and Department of Transportation, we are presenting several proposed changes to the immediately surrounding sidewalks and associated pedestrian crosswalks. These proposed changes will help ensure the safety of pedestrians so that all visitors to the site may safely traverse the roadways. These proposed changes are not only a result of the arch's construction here, but are also needed updates to the circulation and safety standards of the area that are now being given the opportune time to be effected. Greg Wisher, the Deputy Chief of Staff and Policy for the Department of the Interior, is here to present some of those features, as well as the findings of the traffic study conducted on the area. Greg, could you return here, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. As Nick said, my name is Greg Wisher, and I am the Deputy Chief of Staff of Policy at the U.S. Department of the Interior, which oversees the National Park Service, as well as Columbia Island, the contemplated location for the Triumphal Arch, as well as the approaches and the circle, the traffic circle itself. The National Park Service team worked with the Department of Transportation, including its Volpe Center, which is the global leader in applied transportation, research, analysis, and technology, as well as the Federal Highway Administration, to develop traffic plans for both during the construction of the arch and after completion of the arch. The development of the corresponding maintenance and traffic plans prioritize number one, pedestrian and vehicle safety, And two, the efficient movement of both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. Detailed traffic modeling and simulations were used to analyze the impacts of different contemplated traffic flows. While our teams did analyze traffic patterns during the construction of the arch, we're happy to provide simulations and modeling after this meeting. For the purposes of this meeting, I will talk primarily about the traffic patterns after the construction of the arch. The purpose of this, again, was to prioritize safety and efficient movement of traffic. Traffic delays will be minimized to the time needed to safely accommodate pedestrian crossings and the flow of traffic. What I'm about to discuss, we have found no major impacts of traffic traveling to and from Arlington National Cemetery, including funeral processions. And specifically, pedestrians, as you will see, will access the site at two locations situated along the Memorial Avenue axis, directly opposite the openings of the Triumphal Arch. Pedestrian access to these points of entry and exit are anticipated to occur in two stages. Number one, crossings between the north and south sidewalks of Memorial Avenue and Arlington Memorial Bridge with the intermediate triangular refuge areas. And from the triangular refuge areas, then proceeding to the center of the circle. Traffic will be paused periodically to allow pedestrians to cross, which will be coordinated signalization that balances the available green time for pedestrian crossings when vehicles are stopped with time allocated to conflicting vehicular movements. In other words, when pedestrians must wait. The signalization at these pedestrian crossings will be primarily traditional red, yellow, green signalization for vehicles and the traditional red stop, green walk signalization for pedestrians. All vehicle lanes will be designed to accommodate motor coaches as the typical design vehicle, with mountable curbs provided to accommodate larger occasional vehicles as needed. All existing vehicle movements will remain unchanged, except northbound traffic from Washington Boulevard will not be permitted into the circle, but will need to turn right onto Arlington Memorial Bridge. Again, no major impacts on funeral procession operations based on our conversations with Arlington National Cemetery are anticipated. Dropping off and picking up will also be prohibited in the circle and will instead occur along Memorial Avenue in the interest of both safety and traffic movement. the National Park Service anticipates that many visitors will incorporate both the Triumphal Arch and Arlington National Cemetery into a single visit to the area. As a result, the National Park Service will be coordinating closely with Arlington National Cemetery on the following: ensuring adequate motor coach access to Arlington National Cemetery garage and along Memorial Avenue. And we expect a fair amount of the motor coach traffic to park in the Arlington National Cemetery bus lot itself. And number two, identifying designated rideshare pickup and drop-off areas in the area, including the establishment of a geo-fence restriction around Memorial Circle to discourage rideshare activity within the circle itself. Again, following this meeting today, we're happy to provide additional simulations and modeling for the traffic patterns itself that was developed with the Volpe Center, as well as the traffic patterns that will be created during the construction of the arch. Thank you. With that, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Greg. All right, there are a few notable changes that are made to the formerly presented front elevation. As noted with regard to the site plan, the raised platform and associated stairs and ramps have been removed from the proposal. A seat wall and a limited number of bollards are now shown in their place, which together function as a complete barricade to protect the arch plaza from unauthorized vehicles, as well as to protect pedestrians from surrounding traffic. The lions that previously were shown flanking the stairs and their pedestals have also been removed. And the keystone at the center of the main arch is now shown as a scroll. At the time of the previous presentation, limestone, marble, and granite cladding were all under consideration. And granite has been selected as the exterior material due to its strength and anticipated lifespan. It also seemed fitting material for its location, since most of the architectural elements along the Memorial axis are also composed of granite. The president considered the commission's suggestion to look at the arch without the sculptural figures on the roof, but elected not to pursue such an option. While respectfully noting the differences of aesthetic opinion that may exist on the subject, I would like to humbly note that there are several compelling reasons for such climactic embellishments on the monument. First has to do with the character of the monument. The intent of the arch is a celebration of America of 250 years of greatness, freedom, and posterity, for which we can only thank the wisdom of our founders and God's providence. While it may celebrate the victories of America in various theories of war and the sacrifice of our fallen heroes, it is not primarily a monument dedicated to the dead, but to the living, to this great country and its perseverance. This makes it distinct from monuments like the Lincoln and Jefferson memorials, which have a strong funerary character related to their dedication. Second relates to the urban and monumental context. In the Arlington Memorial Circle, at the very border of our nation's capital, the arch will serve as a kind of termination to the monumental skyline of National Mall. Winged Liberty, postured also to be Winged Victory, bookends the great axis that leads all the way to the Capitol Dome and its surmounting Statue of Freedom. These two great figures will bookend the monumental core of Washington, D.C., creating a unique relationship, really a sort of reflection between our nation's governance, represented by the seat of legislature, and its triumphs represented by the arch. The side elevation is the same as shown before. However, the depth of the arch, which was previously shown at 81 feet, is now 90 feet. Panels flanking the lower arch have been added. And during the previous presentation, Commissioner McCreary asked that the opening along the north-south axis also be considered. This revision was explored, however, since the intent of the arch is to provide wall surface area for narrative sculpture. The president elected not to adopt this revision. The floor plans originally presented were diagrammatic and have been developed since. On the ground floor level, visitors to the arch can enter on the south side. Right here. Inside, they will be processed through ticketing and security before gaining access to the stair and elevator lobby, where the grand circular stair and elevators will conduct them to the gallery level, so here and here. Visitors will descend via similar stairs and elevators on the north leg and exit the door opposite the entrance. Once in the gallery level, represented here in the center of the page, the visitors will have access to multiple program spaces, which are still to be determined, but are likely to include a cafe and or gift shop and informational displays. Using either of the elliptical spiral stairs or the elevator at the center of the plan will afford access to the observation deck above. And the observation deck level consists of a small circulation hall inside the statue base and doors to the rooftop viewing platform area. Two emergency egress stairs are located and access on the north and south ends below the eagle statues. National Park Service staff offices, break rooms, and restrooms, as well as the requisite mechanical, electrical, and fire protection spaces, will be allocated throughout the areas labeled back of house on multiple floors. Here's a longitudinal section. The exterior walls will be cast in place concrete of varying thicknesses, all of which will be clad in a granite veneer. A 5 to 6 foot thick concrete mat foundation, which is here, will support the structure, which will in turn be supported by driven pilings. A geotechnical investigation was recently conducted on the project site, and bedrock was found approximately 70 feet below grade. The pilings will be driven to that bedrock. And this is a transverse section cutting through the center of the arch. There are only two major changes here. One is the entry door, which is located at the center and the base, was the scale was increased, and then the addition of the service door, which is located on the right-hand side. This is a view of the front of the arch looking toward Arlington National Cemetery. You can see with the raised base being elevated, there's more of a view towards Arlington National Cemetery. And there's a 3/4 view inside. And per the request of the commission, we have taken several photographs from primary locations along the memorial and monumental axes, showing the anticipated views both with and without the arch. Here's a view from the east porch of the Arlington House. And there it is with the arch. And this is a view from the hemicycle or the military women's memorial. And then from Arlington Bridge at the very end, looking at the circle. With the orange. And then about 3/4 down Memorial Bridge. This is from Parkway Drive Northwest. With the orange. And this is from Lincoln Memorial Circle, which is the circle drive just to the west side of Lincoln Memorial. And here is from the west porch of the Lincoln Memorial. You might note that the direct axial view from the bridge is obscured by the foliage that's on there. And this is from the west side of the Washington Monument. This with the orange, you can just faintly see the Liberty statue. There it is inside the paved area. Again, to the west of the Washington Monument. There. And this is from the western side of Capitol Hill. After you can just see it to the left of the Smithsonian Castle. And we've also taken some images of the views that can be anticipated from the observation deck of the launch. They are particularly helpful, we think, in reinforcing a particular benefit of the construction of it, which is a restoration of the pedestrian to the point of primacy at the western end of the memorial axis. It is unfortunate that Arlington Memorial Bridge is dominated by 6 lanes of heavy traffic, which afford vehicular passengers only a few moments to enjoy the views of Lincoln Memorial or the Memorial Corridor leading to the the Military Women's Memorial as they traverse the Potomac River. This vantage point, which affords visitors 360-degree views of Washington, D.C. and Virginia, raises the even above the traffic and privileged vantage, sheltering beneath the wings of Lady Victory and the flanking eagles. Towards Arlington, and then to the north, and then to the south, downriver. See the picture. The Pentagon. And last time, Commissioner Harris had asked about the locations of arches in major capitals across the across the Western Hemisphere. And I'll just read off a few of them. There are over 70 in total. The Arc de Triomphe, famously in Paris, the India Gate in New Delhi, Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, the Wellington Arch in London, Victory Arch in Baghdad, the Arch of the Cinque Terre in Brussels, the Rogusta Arch in Lisbon, the Arco della Victoria in Madrid, the Arch of Constantine, and 5 others in Rome, and the Red Gate in Moscow. And famously, Washington, D.C. is settled with that one. We do have a few images of the 125 years that monumental architecture has been contemplated on the in the general area and on the circle. And while we don't have them as part of the presentation, we can leave them in the commission, and we can release them as a subsequent document afterwards. And that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or receive them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charbonneau. You neglected one really important arch, the Millennium Gate in Atlanta.
Just focus on capitals, but yes, it is on the list, actually,
Okay.
that we have.
Commissioners, conversation, questions, Mr. Charbonneau.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Nick, what is the occupancy limit inside the arch?
The occupancy will be limited by the capacity of the National Park Service. So they can only accommodate so many visitors with security and et cetera. And so they're contemplating having 80 visitors per hour, which is, I think, not too dissimilar from the Washington Monument. So it could accommodate more, but the idea is that the staff will be limited to accommodate that many people.
Thank you.
That's the current.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick comment. So I appreciate the removal of some of the adornments, the lions, and the pedestals.
Did we go to the elevation piece?
I think similar is better in many ways, and I just, as we're looking through, you can see, but remember the gravestones in Arlington are very simple white markers. And so I think, the losing a bunch of the adornments was actually very helpful. Because it's somber between the two places, regardless of, you mentioned the arches for the living. But it is between, what was a historical part of this country. And on one side really is hallowed ground. And so I appreciate what you've done, and as you continue moving forward, just keep in mind how simple those gravestones are to the south, I guess.
Could we put the? Who's controlling? You're controlling.
And Mr. Chairman, this part should be pretty much limited to questions, and then the commentary will come after. We have a lot of public.
Sorry, Tom.
That's okay. I just want you to know there's a lot of people to hear from.
Charbonneau, I've designed the Newington Brownsea Museum in New York on the Hudson. We had to go 90 some much feet to hit bedrock, which we were concerned was not there. And it ended up, we were banging onto the curtain have I mentioned that to you before? It had collapsed, and New York City did not know it didn't have one of its primary pipes coming in. They asked us to stop banging on these islands, and we had hit granite that day. How deep did you say you had actually hit stone? Tell us, please, about that.
Yes, 2 moorings have been taken on site, and both of them reveal that bedrock is about 70 feet below the surface. The soil is actually quite poor because famously the Columbia Island is a manufactured island, which was created by the dredging of the Potomac. So the soil conditions are not very favorable for any smuggler, but thankfully the bedrock is not terribly far for the surface levels.
That's great news. Mr. Vice Chairman, you look like you have a question? No. Oh, you looked at me as you, okay. Are there any other questions?
I didn't have a question about bedrock, but I have a couple other questions.
Carry on, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Charbonneau, thank you. Can we look at your 3/4 view as you hold it? There you go. So understood. The response to the earlier suggestion of opening up these piers so that the arch can breathe a little. Understood though, because the desire is to have those side arches, well, really all of the arches, this is a question, populated with sculpture.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then that does though, and so on the exterior surfaces, especially on the side elevations of the arch, I'm sure it will work. It does mean though, it results in a very, very spare interior wall surface. There are 2 of them. And so you see the doorway below, just above the red car. Then the entire surface of the wall that surrounds that doorway is sort of begging for, notwithstanding fellow commissioners' desire for simplicity, it does ask seemingly for treatment some kind. And even if it's just a simple frame, it might be a worthy exploration on your part. It could then even be inscribed, right? So that if you go with the Lincoln Memorial, the 2 side chambers of the interiors, inscribed with really meaningful things from President Lincoln, there could be inscriptions here, dedicatory inscriptions that have good, strong relationships to the purpose of the arch. It's an idea. Right now, and also, does this view indicate that there are smooth portions of stone and rusticated portions of stone? It seems that that's the case, but it's a question.
Yeah, the joints might be a little bit.
Exaggerated.
Too highly here.
Okay.
The intent is that it's
smooth. Okay, thank you. So I know that's sort of a question, but it led into a comment, but, the question ultimately is there yet a iconographic sculptural program for this work of architecture? And if so, can you point to the areas of the arch that will be filled with sculpture?
Yes, yeah, these two panels on either side of the arch opening.
Okay.
And then these arch top openings on the left and right. And then similarly on the side elevations, I mean, the blank canvas would potentially have bas relief and or sculpture in the whole round. So,
Okay. And then does the design team have a sense of when that will be developed? And also, is there a sculptor who has been identified? Is the work already underway? I was sort of trying to capture, because as you know, a work of architecture like this necessarily includes the sculptural program. So we're looking at a well-designed arch and it's missing, it's one of the key visual components. When do we get to see that? When do you do that?
I can't give you an exact date, but the administration is working on developing a scheme.
Okay.
And
There is a sculpture.
organizations will have to be presented separately, obviously.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. I just want to review my notes to see if there's anything else. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
So
Move, Tom, please.
we will now move on to public commentary, which is gonna take a little bit of time. We've gotten lots of mail, email, all sorts of things. We have people here too. We have about, I don't know, a dozen to 15 people, institutions and individuals wanting to speak. We'll do that second. I'll just quickly summarize what we've gotten sent to us over the last month. This is now exclusive of what we got the first time. We've got, since that time, it's roughly, as of the cutoff time yesterday, about 600 more or less messages. A lot of it, not a lot, not the lion's share, but significant from DC, but also from about 40 other states in the union. Again, not with trying to get down to not duplicating. We had the numbers read that 99.5% of them were in opposition. There were actually 3 testimonies or letters that came in that were in favor. 2 of those were actually, though, saying they want the arch, but they actually had proposed sort of serious changes to the design. So however you want to construe that, I will actually read the one, but that was simply a letter in favor. But just the overall themes were that there's concern that the arch would obstruct the Lincoln Memorial Arlington Cemetery sightline. This was almost half of the respondents raised concern about that. That this, in fact, disrespects the cemetery and military sacrifice. So that's a key theme. Other ones have to do with that it's a waste of money and misuse of public funds, that it's a gaudy or aesthetically incompatible design, that it is authoritarian or reflects presidential vanity, as a political monument, not a national commemorative work. that there's been an improper process with no congressional authorization, that the scale is inappropriate. They're raised concerned about traffic and pedestrian safety. So with that, I'm going to quickly just read the one letter that was sort of cleanly in support and one sort of just general one that's in opposition, and then we'll switch to the audience that are the people who are here. First one in support. As a 15-year veteran of the global war on terror and a resident of the district, I would like to voice my support for the construction of the Victory Arch within Memorial Circle. The neoclassical design fits just as well as any design that has commemorated events in stone, steel, earth, and water around our national capital region. While the scale of the design is large, it does not overly detract from any other and is a fitting testament to commemorate the United States' semi-centennial. The skyline and indeed the shoreline have evolved continuously over our first 250 years, from our most recent Desert Storm and Desert Shield Memorial through the build out of the war effort offices during the Second World War and to the very creation of the tidal basin and build out of Paynes Point by the Army Corps of Engineers. The creation of this monument will enhance the unique and powerful beauty of our capital city. I wholeheartedly support the proposed design, placement, and creation of the Victory Arch at Memorial Circle. From Mr. Chester Craft. Okay, the other one, and again, this was the only letter of the 600 or so that was sort of just cleanly in support. We've got the other 99 something percent. This is just an example of that. Dear commissioners, I am writing to express my strong opposition to revised Victory Arch design scheduled for discussion. As someone who's lived in the Washington region for many years, who deeply values the meaning of our national memorial landscape, I feel compelled to speak. The axis that runs from the Arlington Cemetery across Memorial Bridge to the Lincoln Memorial is not just a view, it is a narrative. It is a deliberate historic alignment that tells the story of a nation torn apart, reconciled, and recommitted to its democratic ideals. Standing at one of the most powerful sightlines in the United States, looking toward the Lincoln Memorial, you can feel the weight of that history. The sightline, precisely because it honors collective sacrifice and national unity rather than any single individual or agenda. Memorial Circle is the threshold between the resting place of our fallen and the symbolic heart of the Republic. Every element on this corridor, Arlington House, the cemetery, Memorial Bridge, and the Lincoln Memorial, were designed to speak to each other. They form a continuous track of history that should not be interrupted. Introducing a new monumental structure into the space risks fracturing that story and diminishing the meaning generations have understood when they stand on that hill and look across the river. This landscape is not beautiful, it is intentional, it is solemn, it is national, and it deserves protection from additions to that emerge from a broad consensus or historical necessity. I urge the commission to preserve the integrity of this historic axis and reject the placement of the Victory Arch at Memorial Circles. Some places are simply too meaningful to alter, and this is one of them. With respect, Robert Murphy, Mount Vernon, Virginia Farm, Alexandria, Virginia. So that is a very quick summary of, we've got, again, 100, there's no way to actually convey all of the wide commentary. We do, our normal process now is that we would bring the members of the audience who come to testify. By the way, for everybody who's, all of the testimony has been submitted, it's been recorded, it's made available for you, but of course the massive amount of material is impossible to get through in time, but it is as part of the public record. What we normally do now is we would open the testimony first for the institutions that are here.
Second, Mr. Secretary, we're not going to do that quite yet.
Okay.
I'd like you to pull these images up, please.
We don't have one to pull. Sorry. Yeah, you can show it, but we can't. I'm afraid.
Share these with, and I'd also like to acknowledge, we have, yeah, if you could, thank you. You got that? That's right. I'd like to also welcome Josh Fisher from the White House. I see you're sitting there in the front row. I didn't want to miss that you were here. Thank you for turning to the press panels. You had a question, Mr. Vice Chairman?
Only that the hope there is that those images taken from century or more of designs for arches and bridges in this very location might be more generally known to the public. That this is not a idea from whole scratch. That there's a long, long tradition of designs along these lines, not exactly like this, but
Yeah.
for a long, long established acknowledgement of the appropriateness and need for a substantial work of commemorative or memorial architecture at a site related to this bridge, etc. And I think that a lot of people understandably believe their personal experiences of the landscape as it has existed for 100 years, that this has always been intended to be empty. In fact, it's very much not. And that everything should be low and there shouldn't be anything heroic about what's going on here. And in fact, there's a long, long, long tradition that this team and this project is participating in and extending of making bridges experiments like this, not out of the ether, in other words. And it might be something that the commission could put on the website.
Yeah, we'll get the, we were not provided with this information in
Understood.
advance,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
No, it's very helpful
We'll
information for the
post that.
public in general.
It's like 150 years long
Yeah.
designs.
Yeah. That's right,
And
140.
we'll take a break in a little bit, but it'd be nice to just spread these on this table for the audience to be able to come up and look at them more closely because they're very impressive. The city is not a static. This is a place that has grown and evolved where initial observation of this city was it had grand avenues that ended in nothing, created out of a swamp. And we have now closed the mall and it is done. And we have a builder president who wants to open new opportunities for Americans going into the next 250 years. So you'll be able to see these. I, as a private citizen, compelled, which he was involved in 26 years ago, to have a Millennium Project for an arch in this very spot. And as we said from this table before, a plane going into the Pentagon derailed that. And so this is a very elegant building. And I would like now, if we can, Mr. Secretary, to go to the next group of folks.
Okay.
Let's go ahead
We can
and spread these on this table, just in
spread these
case
out.
anybody can.
So what we have, I believe, 3 institutions that we asked, that have said that they are coming. I don't believe we have more. We ask that you keep your comments as brief as possible. Maximum 5 for groups, 3 for individuals. The first one signed up is Betsy Merritt, Deputy General Counsel for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And if you could just come to the microphone and speak into the microphone for the sake of you probably have to lower it a bit. That's good.
Can
Thank
you
you.
hear me okay? Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Merritt, Deputy General Counsel of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. After reviewing the revised concept plans that have been submitted for the proposed Triumphal Arch, the National Trust remains extremely concerned about the location, the height, the scale, and the design of the proposed arch. The Commemorative Works Act requires that works such as the proposed Triumphal Arch must be sited at a location that does not interfere with or encroach on an existing commemorative work, and to the maximum extent possible, it protects open space, existing public use, and cultural and natural resources. We believe these criteria in the Commemorative Works Act call for the Commission to reject the proposed location and design for the arch. In addition, the Commemorative Works Act specifically requires the project to be authorized by Congress. At last month's meeting, the Commission had several useful comments and recommendations in response to the initial concept presentation. Notwithstanding those recommendations, the modifications to the proposal since the April meeting have been minimal. Most notably, the 68-foot high sculpture at the top of the proposed arch has not been removed or reduced, contrary to the Commissioner's recommendation. The location of the proposed arch at Memorial Circle will interrupt the highly significant relationship between the Lincoln Memorial across Memorial Bridge and Arlington National Cemetery and Arlington House. As many others have emphasized, this vista is one of the most symbolic landscape vistas in Washington, D.C., and was designed to represent the post-Civil War reconciliation between the northern states and the southern states. Arlington Memorial Bridge was intentionally designed with a low profile to respect the visual and symbolic vistas connecting the National Mall and Arlington National Cemetery. We'll be hearing more about this from the next two speakers too. If built as planned at this proposed location, the new Triumphal Arch would obscure these very deliberate relationships between the Lincoln Memorial, Arlington Memorial Bridge, and Arlington House. The National Trust is also deeply concerned about the unprecedented height and scale of the proposed Triumphal Arch, which would overwhelm the Lincoln Memorial, Arlington National Cemetery, and Arlington House. The proposed arch would especially diminish and disrupt the iconic and powerful presence of the beloved Lincoln Memorial. The proposed location of the arch is also inconsistent with the solemn historic character of Arlington National Cemetery. As the hallowed resting place of 400,000 veterans and their families, Arlington National Cemetery is a powerful reminder of American military sacrifice and national unity, all within sight of the monumental core of the nation's capital. Distinguished by its rolling hillsides with uniform rows of solemn graves lined with powerful, unadorned headstones, Arlington National Cemetery is a living memorial that hosts hundreds of funeral services every month. The arch, as proposed, would dominate the National Cemetery and would be inconsistent with its solemn and hallowed character. Finally, it's important to note that review of the proposal under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act has not yet been initiated. We understand that the National Park Service will be initiating Section 106 consultation soon, but the statute mandates that the review process must be completed prior to approval of the project. The whole purpose of Section 106 is to develop and evaluate alternatives and modifications to the project that would avoid and minimize its adverse effects. In addition, based on our experience with Section 106 consultation in the National Capital Region, we anticipate that the proposed plans could well be substantially modified in response to the collaborative review process and comments from the expert professional staff with the involved agencies who participate. We urge the commission members to defer any decision in order to be informed by the results of the Section 106 consultation process. Thank you for considering these comments from the National Trust for Historic Preservation.
All right, Mr. Chair. We'll just keep moving on. Okay, next on our list is Rebecca Miller, Executive Director from the DC Preservation League.
Good morning. You okay? That's a little short of that. Good morning, Chairman Cook and members of the Commission. My name is Rebecca Miller. I'm the Executive Director of the DC Preservation League. I'm also the daughter of a veteran who's buried in Arlington National Cemetery. DCPL was founded in 1971 and has spent over 5 decades advocating for the protection of Washington's historic and built environment. And thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'd like to align our position with the National Trust for Historic Preservation and the Cultural Landscape Foundation, who you'll hear after me. Here, Charles L'Enfant's grand design for Washington, D.C., created in 1791, was heavily influenced by the European Baroque tradition. This included features such as radiating avenues and monumental gateways that symbolized power and prestige. However, L'Enfant's vision did not account for the future realities of American history, particularly the Civil War and the later development of the National Mall's western axis. The view from the Lincoln Memorial to the Custis Lee Mansion, now known as Arlington House, carries significant symbolic weight. The Lincoln Memorial, dedicated to the assassinated president, serves as a powerful tribute to the ideals of unity, freedom, and equality that he championed. The visual access extending from the memorial across the Potomac River to the former home of Robert E. Lee represents a poignant connection between two key figures in American history and reflects the nation's journey through division, conflict, and reconciliation. Arlington House and the surrounding cemetery symbolize the complex legacy of the Civil War, representing both the Confederate cause and the sacrifices made for the Union. The clear sight line from Lincoln Memorial to the historic site embodies the aspiration for national healing and remembrance, reinforcing values of perseverance and hope for the united future. Any obstructions, such as an arch or other sculpture, would disrupt this vital visual connection, diminishing the intended impact of the design. An arch placed in the Memorial Circle would prevent observers from fully appreciating the relationship between these two significant landmarks. This would hinder the symbolic dialogue between them and compromise the aesthetic integrity of the National Mall, which was designed to celebrate these monuments through open vistas and continuous sightlines. The clarity of the view serves as a reminder of the lessons learned from history, making it essential to preserve these relationships in urban planning and architecture and landscape design. This viewshed was intentionally crafted by the Macmillan Commission in the early 20th century and highlighted in the Lincoln Memorial Commission report of December 5th, 1912. The report states, if a memorial bridge to Arlington is built directly connecting as shown on the general plan, the Lincoln Memorial site with the ground containing the dust of those who gave the last full measure of devotion to their country, it will add to the meaning and solemnity of both places. Moreover, linking together the District of Columbia with Virginia, it could serve as a striking symbol of reunion between the North and the South. A most appropriate symbol leading to and from the memorial of a man who said in his first inaugural address, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies." Finally, the space where the arch would stand was historically a tidal mudflat that did not exist during L'Enfant's time. The Army Corps of Engineers shaped the island through dredging and piling material that's created its current form. Forcing a conceptual 18th century gateway into a 20th century landscape overrides the intentional historical design choices made after the Civil War. Plans evolve and cities evolve. However, the best preservation requires us to honor not only the original blueprints of our city, but also its evolution shaped by our history. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. And Mr. Secretary, we have one more.
Well, we have one more institutional speaker, and then we have a bunch of, so the next, should I go ahead, Mr. Lord Wennerstrom, Director of Communications at the Cultural Landscape Foundation.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lord Wennerstrom. I'm here on behalf of the Cultural Landscape Foundation, which is a national and Washington, D.C. based educational and advocacy organization established in 1998. For the architecture, the architect-centric work by the adjacent people. The Cultural Landscape Foundation is also the home of the Colonial International Landscape Architecture Prize, which won the Pritzker as a $100,000 award. I'm really glad that you actually have all these visuals of prior projects, because I'm going to address them as part of my comments. The arch would be a significant addition to the monumental floor, which stretches from U.S. Capitol grounds to Arlington National Cemetery and includes the White House grounds and the National Mall. There are two critical points in Washington, D.C.'s landscape legacy. Rebecca just addressed the L'Enfant plan, and then there's also the Macmillan plan of 1992. The latter was provided by a distinguished group that included the landscape architect Frederick Walton Jr. His impact on the development of the capital city is exceptional. Along with the Macmillan Commission, he was a member of the first Commission of Fine Arts in 1910 and served until 1918. He was the principal author of the Organic Act, which created the National Park Service. The Park Service oversees the National Mall and the Monument Corps. He was also a member of the National Capital Park Commission from 24 to 26, the National Capital Parks and Planning Commission from 26 to 32, and the principal designer of the White House grounds and its plan in 1935, which has guided work on those grounds for more than 9 years. As the CFA's own website notes, Olmsted Jr.'s work of many decades on the National Mall created a unified spatial composition from a sequence of disconnected landscapes. As a CFA commissioner, Olmsted Jr.'s input was vital. According to the National Park Service's Cultural Landscape Report of 1999, for the Lincoln Memorial in West Wells Park. Olmsted exercised a unique influence over the development of the Lincoln Memorial grounds, serving as architect design decisions regarding all aspects of the treatment of the landscape. In addition, layout, spatial relationships, planting, and site features were often conceived, shaped, and reviewed by the landscape architect member of the commission prior to approval by the full commission. Visually connecting the Lincoln Memorial to Arlington National Cemetery's Memorial Bridge, described in the National Register of Historic Places as Washington's most beautiful bridge. And it was designed by William Mitchell Kendall, a partner at the architectural firm McKinley and White. Earlier bridge designs included the 1886 by Paul Peltz that featured Renaissance revival towers and articulated steel arches crossing the Potomac River, and competition winning designs in 1899 by Edward Casey that included triumphal arches on piers and emphasized an imperial architectural image. And you have some of those images before you. Some are of the actual competition image, and some are the images that were rejected. According to the National Park Service, the present bridge was symbolically designed to show the strength of the United Nations by joining a memorial on the north side of the Potomac River, the Lincoln Memorial, with one on the south, Arlington House, the Robert E. Lee Memorial. The architect envisioned an elaborate sculptural program, including seated figures of the first 4 American presidents on the DC side, and reclining statues of oceans and river gods on Columbia Island. The bridge itself was to have 40 allegorical statues. That entire sculptural program was eliminated by the CFA. So the proposed 2,250-foot tall triumphal arch interrupts and severs this key visual and spatial relationships between that are integral to the monumental core, as both Rebecca and Betsy knows. Some 110 years ago, Olmsted Jr. wrote a letter to the Secretary of War, Newton Baker, and this is a hot link from the testimony that was submitted by Newton. And this concerns the proposed memorial bridge design. Its sage observations are apt today. The existing bridge design was the result of a competition held about 1899, before the Lincoln Memorial was ever created. He concluded that these towers in that 1899 zone are the most conspicuous feature of the design and are so large and elaborate as to compete with the Lincoln Memorial, not only in an artistic sense, but in point of cost. To eliminate them from the design would involve its complete restudy as an artistic problem. Not to eliminate them would be like a slap in the face to the Lincoln Memorial and an enough to make no claim of which it works with. We hope that the words and precedent of a founding CFA commissioner who greatly influenced the overall design of the city offers this commission valuable insight and worthwhile guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So
now we go to individuals, and we have a list of about a dozen. There may be some people who didn't, but I will start with the list that I have, beginning with your first name is Cheryl English. Is Cheryl English here to speak? Hearing none. We will move to the next person on the list, Julie Hanson Swenson. We, just for, sometimes people write in intending to come and then it doesn't work out. So that's why we don't necessarily have everybody. Next on the list, Terry Gentry. No. Okay. Katerina Panos. Karen Bueller. Deborah Forbes. I'm beginning to think that there was some confusion about sending in versus assuming that they were going to speak in person.
Yeah.
Megan Tully. Must be the case. So, okay. All right. Susan Douglas. All right. Susan is here. All right. We apologize if there was some confusion, but Susan, please.
Good morning, Chairman Cook and Commissioners. I'm here this morning because I am horrified by the speed with which the Triumphal Arch project is moving through the approval process. Your commission held an initial hearing about the arch on April 16th. I submitted a written comment ahead of that meeting, as did roughly 1,000 others. And according to official reports, every one of those comments opposed the arch. Yet on that same morning, despite total public opposition, you approved the arch with only minor modifications. My concerns about the arch are as follows. For starters, there is a law that bars all construction on federal parkland in the nation's capital without the express authority of Congress. The administration and Congress has not approved this project. The administration has now admitted it has no plans to seek congressional approval and will instead rely on authorization from 1925 related to 166-foot columns for that space, which were never constructed. Using a 100-year-old loophole to avoid seeking congressional approval is specious at best. The arch is yet one more vanity project for President Trump, which taxpayers must fund. He claims that the arch is to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, but we know this is a vanity project because at a fundraising dinner for the ballroom last October, Trump showed off plans for the arch and told journalists that the arch was being built for me. Video of those comments is widely available online. It's beyond unseemly for sitting presidents to build their own memorials. Memorials are a reflection of the public's judgment of a leader's legacy and should be built once that legacy has been established. Building the arch on Memorial Circle is a desecration of the sacred space where 400,000 soldiers and their family members are buried. The grotesque size of a 250-foot tall arch would block the historic sightline between the Robert E. Lee Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery and the Lincoln Memorial, a view intended to symbolize North-South reunification after the Civil War. At 250 feet, the arch would be more than double the height of the Lincoln Memorial. It would dwarf everything in its midst and ruin the vista for thousands of people who leave and enter Washington, D.C. daily via the Arlington Memorial Bridge. In fact, the height of the arch has led the FAA to begin evaluating possible flight safety risks, given the arch's proximity to Washington National Airport and its very complex flight patterns. This is standard FAA procedure for anything over 200 feet tall. And factoring in ground elevation, you've already heard that the 250-foot tall arch will reach a height of over 270 feet. The FAA has indicated that its review process could take up to 9 months. Memorial Circle is, as I speak, already under permit for testing and boring in preparation for construction work. The testing is necessary because the soil in this location is predominantly modified, dredged alluvial soil and is considered a poor choice for the construction of a massive stone monument. Extensive and expensive foundational supports will be required to support the structure of the arch. Speaking of construction, building this arch, which the people did not vote for or approve, will surely create a traffic nightmare in an already heavily congested corridor. There are myriad reasons for not allowing the construction of the Arc de Trump to move forward. Until the FAA completes its safety review process, until soil testing and assessment of structural viability have been completed, and until there is a verdict in the ongoing lawsuit filed by the Vets Against the Arch and the historical architect through Public Citizen, any discussion of design and construction of the arch is premature at best. Regardless of FAA requirements, soil testing, and legal challenges, I firmly believe that the arch has no business being built. Democracies do not build memorials to living presidents. Building this gaudy arch in a location that will overpower everything in its midst and interrupt the historically significant view between Lincoln Memorial and the Arlington National Cemetery is an affront to our history and to the men and women at Arlington National Cemetery who gave their lives in service to our country, as well as to those who remember them. It is, in fact, arch insanity. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next name on my list is Gary Langston. So Gary is here.
Good morning. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak. Hopefully everyone can hear me fine. So my name is Gary Langston, but
You can lift the mic. There you go.
my name is Gary Langston. I'm a veteran. I served 29 years in the Army. My wife's a veteran. She served in Persian Gulf War. More importantly, my parents served at Arlington. And by the way, Mr. Mims, they did attend the Atlanta Olympics and they loved it. I would like, if you could turn to slide 11. Is that possible? It's the view from Arlington. It's the view from Arlington. Anyway, it's the view from Arlington. Regardless, first, thank you very much for the sentence. It's very helpful. My real comment here is one that, in addition to everything else that's said about what it does, it doesn't reflect the views from elsewhere in Arlington cemeteries. Views from the Tomb of the Unknown should be helpful. Just personally being involved, views from section 66 of Arlington Cemetery would be helpful. Be helpful to understand that. Secondly, at slide 18 is a view from the steps near the Lincoln Memorial, the steps that go down to the water. My son and I went there 2 nights ago. We live in Washington, so we're in the area a lot of times. The view, what's not included in the package yet is what the view of this would be at night. I will tell you for me, one of the more breathtaking views is the view from the DC side looking across to Arlington House and having an understanding, particularly at night when lit, I'm assuming this will be lit, is, I think, something the commission should consider. And then the third thing, I agree completely that status quo here is not a good idea. It's it is a traffic circle. Its major benefit is it doesn't block the views of anything. But I seriously question whether I seriously question the underlying purpose of the arch, which is a monument as opposed to a memorial. Those are hallowed grounds there. Anything that doesn't respect that, anything that doesn't help bring unity to the country is in conflict with what I believe is the original intent and the way things are today. With that, thanks for your time. I did put most of this. I put most of this in a letter to you with a couple of photos that my son and I took at night a couple nights ago.
Thank you. Next on the list, I've got Danilo Augusto Feliciano.
Hello, thank you for having me, to the members of the commission and non FACIES TIBI SCULPTILE NEQUE OMNEM SIMILITUDINEM QUAE in CAELO DESUPER et QUAE in TERRA DEORSUM EORUM QUAE SUNT AQUIS TERRA. Thou shalt not make to thyself the graven thing, nor the likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or in the earth beneath, nor of those things that are in the waters under the earth. Exodus 24. This design has the temerity to declare one nation over God, and then right over that phrase place a golden statue. The hubris involved is breathtaking. Not only that, but the statue is made in the fashion of the Statue of Liberty with a 7-spiked crown and a raised torch. But nowhere in the design can be found the words, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tost to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." I'm a Lazarus in the new Colossus. The current president has his own Colossus, Don Colossus. Stands 22 feet tall on a private golf course, and instead of a torch, his fist is raised. I guess I can be happy it's at least not 60 feet cubits high, like the one in Daniel 3:5, or 60 feet high, like this one. Currently, there are about 750,000 people who are homeless in the United States. There are people going bankrupt because of medical bills, becoming unemployed because of DOGE or artificial intelligence advancements, and the vast majority of the people in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck. The labor force participation rate is a paltry 61.8% according to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, and many in this number are struggling to afford the gas it takes to get to work. If the current president declared that the homeless have to move out immediately, coincidentally, 61.8% is the inverse of the golden ratio. Then there's the other side of this triumphal arch, upon which is inscribed the Declaration, Liberty and Justice for All, which comes from the Pledge of Allegiance and was written by the Baptist minister Francis Bellamy, who, by the way, happens to be socialist. Now, Aristotle wrote in Book 5 of Politics that the only stable state is the one in which all men are equal before the law. But just 2 days ago, the acting attorney general for the Department of Justice wrote a settlement for agreement for our current president that the United States was hereby forever barred and precluded from prosecuting and pursuing any and all claims against him, his family, and all of his companies. This was exquisitely drafted in the style of Rex non potest peccare. The king can do no wrong. So, all I have left to say is, quod omnem rex concilium meum placiat tibi et peccata tua, et omnem sinis, redime et iniquitates tuas, misericordiis popero, forsitan ignoscat delectis suis. Wherefore, king, let my counsel be acceptable to thee, and redeem thou thy sins with alms, and thy iniquities with works of mercy to the poor. Perhaps thy offenses will be forgiven. Daniel 4:27. My name is Danihel Augusto Feliciano. I'm a veteran. Thank you for all you're doing. I know you do love this country and you do love the works that we do. Thank you for receiving the testimony.
Next is Allison Hoagland. We have an Allison Hoagland.
You can say your last name again.
Yeah, Hoagland. I'm here today to express my opposition to the construction of a triumphal arch at Memorial Circle. I am a longtime resident of Washington, D.C., a professor emerita of history and historic preservation, and the author of 6 books on American architectural history. I have a long and deep commitment to historic architecture and its power to explain the past and inform the present. The excessive size of this arch would obscure some reciprocal vistas that are important to our nation's history. From the Lincoln Memorial, across Memorial Bridge, through Arlington Cemetery, and on the top of the hill, Lee House. It is important that these views be kept open and unobscured. The connection of the Lincoln Memorial, representing Lincoln himself, to the home of the leader of the Confederate Army, Robert E. Lee, was designed to help heal the wounds of the war that tore apart the nation. A literal reaching across the river that divided North and South. To disrupt this view would disrupt this reconciliation. Further, the construction of a triumphal arch at a site that was designed not to triumph and gloat, but rather to reconcile and heal, as Lincoln himself encouraged as the close of the war drew near, would violate Lincoln's desire to bind up the nation's wounds. This arch shows no respect for its somber surroundings. As the applicant's additional submissions make abundantly clear, the size of the proposed arch is overwhelming, looming over the small but heavily trafficked site, overpowering the serene cemetery, and vying for attention with the Lincoln Memorial. The revised submission shows no attempt to reduce the visual impact. The height was apparently chosen on a whim, 250 feet coinciding with our nation's anniversary, rather than a reasoned assessment of what would be most appropriate for this significant and sensitive place. I urge you to consider anew what would best serve this site, something that does not obscure a vista, that does not disrespect the existing memorials, and that does not broadcast triumph in a memorial setting. Thank you.
I have, Mr. Chair, there was one other name that came through last night that's the last I have, which is Mr. James Snyder. I don't know if Mr. Snyder is here to present.
James Snyder.
Yes. Are you representing him?
Yeah,
Okay, because I did get a message just before 4 o'clock about those. But you have to introduce yourself.
Yes.
Thanks.
So, Mr. Pope and member of the division.
Speak closer to the mic.
Good morning, Mr. Cook and members of the commission. And my name is Lu Ho. I'm with Kim Snyder and John Dugan, and the three of us are city planners, urban designer of more than 40 years each in various categories. And we are generally concerned some of the technical issues. We're trying to help to improve the design in its image and its height and side plans, and how to use this arch as a national symbol for certain type of cultures. So we basically focus on three aspects. The first is about the height of the building mass, and we thought the most controversial thing is that the two massive, two big boats, and then brought the views to the national cemetery in Bratislava. So we thought maybe we can add a flagpole top of the building to national flagpole. So that's total height. We think it's important to keep the 250 numbers, but we can give add a flagpole for the total numbers still 250, but the building is maybe lower. We submitted our proposal that there is so probably that's correct. So that was our first suggestion, and then the second one is about the site. We felt the current design, the site plan on site plan, the pedestrian entrance is a little bit limited. Also interferes with the main traffic. So we suggest and pedestrian, according to this current design, the pedestrian have cross streets twice to get into the circle. So we think maybe we can as it is our drawings that we can do the difference probably and better improve the pedestrian experience, and also think about the people who are taking photo of this when they visit the memorial, the building. So we should think about where is the best angle and experience. So I can't talk about the specific, there's no images here. So that's the second, that's the last one was in this most important is Snyder has personal story about this. He's has relatives buried in the cemetery. So he thinks he wants this to be a national memorial for all the national heroes and who might bury here or have some the memorial services here. So just a national and all that are presented in a proposal, and he wrote a and that's basically our three suggestions and wish to project as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. And that's, sorry, that's it on my list. There may actually be, if possible, there's others here who were here. I see it. So I guess if you can, your guidance, it looks like. Hopefully not, there's not such a long list. We have one, two, Mr. Chairman, at your indulgence. Well, sure. Dan, come forward and yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hello again. Thank you for responding. I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes, and identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Kevin Wheeler. I spoke at the last hearing, and thank you for holding another hearing. I would say, I don't know if it's clear, but there was no time broadcast for this hearing on the website. I took screenshots of it. So maybe I missed it, but if, in the future, because this is such an important issue and there are many projects going on that matter to the American public, if it could just be clearer, and maybe if we could have a bigger room each time I come, it's been a little small. Just might help for public comment. Anyway, thank you very much for having me. I wanted to come and again express my opposition to the arch. The scale, as I said last time, is too big. The ornamentation is way too gaudy and excessive for the beauty of UC's architecture and what it's known for. And the site is wrong for such a scale. For instance, I just drove under the Brooklyn Bridge. This is almost as tall as the Brooklyn Bridge. So we're basically just plunking down a very ornate arch in the middle of DC that's the same as almost driving under the Brooklyn. And I hear a lot of references to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. I spent a lot of time in Paris, beautiful city. That arch is only 164 feet. And I don't believe that the French public would approve anything this gaudy and of this scale. And I don't believe if most Americans could come and stand here, they would walk across the bridge in both directions or drive it or go on to Arlington Cemetery as the gentleman spoke. I think they would understand that this will ruin the site. I would also say that I don't even think that the Park Service can handle more public projects. We're not even taking care of what we have. If you jog along the Memorial Bridge, as I do, you walk it, you drive. You come across the bridge, you go down West Potomac Park, there is broken glass everywhere. Families with their strollers, little kids, babies in their strollers, and it's just crunch, crunch, crunch of glass. There's trash along the side. You go to Montrose Park, near where some cabinet secretaries pass by almost every day. The grass comes up to here. There are piles of trash. They can't even take care of what they have. And so I don't think adding this, unless they're going to greatly increase their budget, which we know they've cut, I don't think they can maintain it. I would say that I'm asking the commission to please oppose this. One thing that shocked me with the process last time I was here, or surprised me, is that there was kind of a whisper, of course I was standing over here, that there were 1,000 comments submitted in opposition, but I didn't hear any of them addressed. And I can't believe that there weren't any comments that were worth reading from the letter, if that was the purpose of submitting them, if people took the time out of their busy lives to send in a letter and say, we care so much about this city and this country that we have disagreements over it. So anyway, I wanted to say that I'm asking the commission to oppose this. I don't think tying this to a 100-year-old law feels kosher at all. I think that this should go before Congress as the law states, but even out of a matter of principle, as a country that's supposed to be a democracy, that this should be aired with hearings. And so there could be more comments. I have heard such excellent comments. I give you credit. You have drawn out some really talented and knowledgeable people. Even the comments today are so good and their comments are so valid about why this project as it exists should not go forward. And I don't understand why they wouldn't have, followed the legal and proper process. Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate. They shouldn't be intimidated by this if they think they're on the side of right. They need to have votes on the design, the location, the cost of 100 million to 250 million, the funding, the merits and the morals of the process. And where are the donors known? I worked on the Hill for almost 30 years. We were not allowed to take this. We were not allowed to take donations. Our bosses were not allowed to take it. When I had my daughter, a lobbyist gave me a gift that was maybe, I don't know, $40, $100. I gave it back. I can't even believe the things that are going on that are allowed. This should be a much more transparent process. I think, excuse me for 2 seconds.
We're,
I'm afraid, yeah. I think we have your idea,
Okay.
pretty much in hand, and thank you very much for coming back. I waived the rule for you to speak, and so thank you very much.
I appreciate that, and I know that. I
Okay.
know that, thank you, but I think it's a public process, so. While I know that you're trying to emphasize to me that you did me a favor, and I do appreciate that.
No, I didn't do you a favor. I broke the rule to allow you to speak because we didn't have you signed up evidently.
Okay, well, that's true, but it just wasn't as well known, but anyway, thank you very much. I hope that you will defer, you will oppose or defer a decision on the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary.
I think there was one more gentleman.
No, I'm closing it now.
Oh, you're closing it.
Yeah. Was he signed up?
No, but he had raised, but we don't actually have a rule against, you don't have to sign up against to speak.
Right, but I'm exercising my authority as chairman, so we're going to move on to the next. Where are we now?
All the people who didn't show up, can it just be?
Second.
Let's leave it in there, it's 9 people.
Commissioners,
I think people are a lot of this is we're in the wrong venue. A lot of the stuff that they're talking about, we're actually not the venue. I appreciate everyone talking. I appreciate everyone's concerns. That's what America's about. Everyone wants to voice, but a lot of the stuff that people are talking about, actually, we are not the correct venue. But I did want to say to Mrs. Miller and Mr. Langston, my parents are buried at Arlington too, so I obviously feel very strongly as well. And thank you both for speaking.
all right, well, sir, we'll allow one more. And so please introduce yourself and be safe.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I can assure you if I'm standing up, people are talking about, I'm passionate about something, so I apologize for not having signed up before, and I do appreciate the opportunity. I don't want to belabor the point, I think.
Could you,
the
the
National Park Service.
Identify
Oh, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. My name is John Ayers. I'm a 40-year resident of the district, and a lover of the National Mall. I think it's well established that the National Park Service and others agree that the Memorial Bridge, as the actual informational panels of the bridge say, is the ceremonial entrance to Arlington National Cemetery. So it's not just at the gates of Arlington National Cemetery that the respect and the hallowed nature of those grounds commence. It's the entire approach, as the McMillan Commission report laid out, and as we've all heard today from very authoritative sources. So I wanted to point out that as such, on page 59 of the McMillan Commission report, and I hope you've all read it, I really do, because it's a very compelling, fascinating document that we should all be following. Olmsted and the commission wrote, nothing needs, quote, proper supervision and planning more than the modern cemetery, which was written in 1902, because nothing suffers more from, quote, vulgarity, ignorance, and pretentiousness on one side, and grasping unscrupulousness on the other. A cemetery, they wrote, should be a place one enters with, quote, respect and peace, as into a church or sacred place. So I have no objection to a monument for the living. I just don't think it belongs here in our great cemetery. Thank you.
Okay. I think that concludes it, Mr. Chairman.
And so, Tom, next steps.
Whatever discussion you have, it's before you as an action, as a revised concept, it's before you.
All right.
Revised concept design.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Yeah, it's 10:45. Do we want to vote now, take a break for a minute and reconvene? What the commissioners prefer?
I defer to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, I think if we can, I think we'll try to move now, and
So what I have a few remarks to make, for the Olmsted, folks that are here. My family has built a few Olmsted parks. I'm very conscious of Olmsted's skills and how much he's done for the federal city. The National Trust gave me an award for saving Fox Theater when I was 15. And the Macmillan Plan has created one of the most astonishing monument precincts. This extension is one of those. The mall has been closed. Washington is not a static city. It must grow to allow the next 250 years of Americans to celebrate their accomplishments too. The Lincoln is 100 feet tall. This arch is 166 feet tall. It is not double. President Robert E. Lee owned Arlington House. His mansion, though large, is diminutive relative to the grandiose Macmillan Plan, likely the greatest urban plan realized to date. We stole his home, and he lived the rest of his life as president of Washington College, now Washington and Lee University. He built our chapel, and his family, he and his family are buried there. My father and I studied there, and my World War II PTSD father, through his study of Robert E. Lee, particularly post-Civil War, while allowed to study in that very chapel, gave him a religious epiphany and compelled him to seek out Martin Luther King Sr. We call him Daddy King in Atlanta, and ultimately Dr. King, who grew up, and my father assisted him because of his study of Robert E. Lee. This is an arch that is scaled to frame his house. I tried to do it 26 years ago. It is not of a scale as big as it is, not to scale with this grandiose Macmillan Plan. Vantage points we asked for by Mr. Charbonneau, he provided those today. The building is beautiful. The building is to scale with this place. It is 166 feet tall. It is 166 feet tall, and it gives the prominence to Arlington House that it deserves. And so the sculpture component, Mr. Vice Chairman, if you might help me with that, because I know you had asked for additional points in the structure before. Those are not finished yet, but I would propose that we approve the art and reserve the sculptural component, if you might help me with that.
I'll be happy to. Just a couple of comments before, if I may, right? And I've just been asking for these views to be taken. Because there are a number of arguments being made against the arch. It's too big, and it blocks the view. And what proponents of each of those separate arguments need to understand about their argument is that if you make it smaller, it will block the view, and its current size, it doesn't. When the design was presented last month, or in our last meeting, we weren't provided with these views. If we can show some more of them, Mr. Chardonnay. And so we felt as a commission that that was, sort of a big lacuna in their presentation. So we asked for these views to be taken. So it's precisely because the 166-foot tall arch is as big as it is, that it's open and its portal is able to show the view. The other geometric challenge here is that, as this photograph shows, I mean, I prefer the photographer go stand out on these two yellow lines in the middle, but at risk of life and limb. But we can see that had the photographer gone out there, be looking right down the arch, all the hill to Arlington National Cemetery and to the Custis Lee Mansion.
We have that, Mr. Charbonneau. Would you present that too? We have, it's close. So the other direction.
So,
Oh, no, that's it.
so
That's it.
the one argument refutes the other or damages the other. So if you want a smaller arch, then you have a block view. You don't want a block view, then this is a very well proportioned and well-sized arch to address this issue. So the length of the axis, architects and planners talk in terms of axis, you could just say view line, okay? The length of this view line, as mentioned, I believe is a mile, is such that you really have to be on the line in order to appreciate the objects at either end, either Custis Lee Mansion from this view or the Lincoln Memorial from Custis Lee Mansion. You have to be on the line in order to appreciate. And by spanning that line with this portal, then the arch provides a frame for the view and not blocking. It's a matter of geometry and of bipolar vision provided by God to human beings. It's a simple geometry, and there it is. So the arguments against this are coming from two different positions, but they refute or they block each other's motivations. And then so that's that, and it's something I'm reiterating something, but in more detail, probably not as well as Chairman Cook just did. And one other thing is I'm going to reiterate, and probably not as well, as my fellow commissioner mentioned, and that is that unfortunately, there are a great number of concerns brought before this commission that the commission simply does not have the purview to address. We're barraged with essentially attempts to litigate positions that this body cannot address, doesn't have the commission, or literally challenge to address from Congress. So they're very real. You're making them, and they are very real concerns. But I would gently suggest and respectfully suggest that you bring those objections to proper venues. This is the United States Commission of Fine Arts, and we're here to work with designs that are presented to us to work on them as a forge to make them better, to make them more appropriate, to make them more beautiful. And that's our commission. So with regard to that, I'm done. If there's anybody else has anything else, I'm happy to make a motion.
Mr. Vice Chairman, we need to break for just a minute.
Okay.
And so there's been a bit of a family emergency, and so, and then we'll reconvene in about 15 minutes.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you very much.
so the direction from the chair is that we will be breaking 15 minutes. So we yeah.
Well, about.
Sorry, excuse me, for the record, that's 20 minutes. Yeah. Mr. Chairman. We're just waiting for the room. There's a couple people coming in. So I think you can go ahead and resume, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Ms. Secretary. Are there any other comments from commissioners? Over commission, further remarks? None, okay. So, Ms. Secretary, I'd like to exercise my authority as chairman, make the following motion. The arch and the site plan, location, size, design, concept approval. And that the commission looks forward to the next stage for a full sculptural plan that is still to be done. And I think I got that pretty, would you like me to restate it so that I can get it exactly?
With just one item of clarification, when you say sculpture, do you include the winged sculptures on top?
The concept, yes.
They are part of the approval, or you're asking for those in the future?
We add the full concept with the details to be given to us in the next meeting, but this would be a final for the arch itself.
Again, I'm not clear whether you're including the.
Yeah, to be clear, so that the model here representing what I think Chairman Cook is motion to approve that. Correct. Yeah, and then also to express the commission's interest in the rest of the sculptural program that I was asking about earlier, in addition to everything that we see there.
Correct.
I'm sorry, does that include the sculptures? Does the approval include what's on the top?
Yes.
It's just the other sculptural program that you want to see more information about.
Well, the approval is for the entire concept with the decoration at the top and the 166-foot tall building. And we want to see the sculpture as to what it's going to ultimately look like. We've already had an engineer come in to help us with the wingspan and the aspect of the wind shear and to make sure that it stand up. So we need to see collaboration between the two. In Chamberlain, we understand that there is a sculptor that is working on this that we're considering.
That would be a question for Mr. Charbonneau, but I believe so.
Didn't quite.
Microphone.
Mr. Charbonneau, the sculpture on the top of the building, do we have a team working on that currently?
We've had people look at it, but it's not currently being, nothing has been taken further than in terms of.
Right. Okay, so that's what I thought. And so that is my motion. And do I have a second?
I'll second. I believe, I just want to reconfirm your motion. Your motion for a final approval on the structure of the arch and concept for the statue on top and for them to come back.
Yeah, and at one point, we've been told there could be additional sculpture on the niches as well.
I second that motion.
Or not.
Yes, we are building the way we are building the events and the arch. But not the sculptures that are added later because we're not.
Yeah, I think maybe the motion's a little
unclear. Do you want to restate it?
So just say that the design, this is with a question mark. This is your motion, right? The design is presented is approved for final conceptual approval. That's what it's in for today, right?
It's in for a revised concept.
Okay, so
the question about final design would be a question of documenting. There's a
So we're
lot of
not-
unanswered questions.
So the
Again,
next step is concept approval, right?
this is still a concept level approval. It's the second one because you already approved it the first time, but this is really design development. So there is a final design that would normally come after this with more documentation of the issues of details, structure, everything else about it. I mean, you could approve it in final if you never wanted to look at it again, but the normal thing would be to see it as a final design along the way. But you could choose, just like as you did with the ballroom, to say we're done. It's
For
your
the building itself and the concept, this is a final approval that I'm exercising as chairman.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then we look forward to seeing the sculptural components of this approved design in the future.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. That's the motion for that, or the action for that case, and we'll write that up. And out in a week.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank the team. The model is very persuasive. The scale of the arch in context of the great stretch of the mall, the great distances, the relationships of the great memorial and monuments, memorials and monuments, and the United States Capitol on them in this great stance is very good. And thanks to the continued development of the architectural detail. I think it's very, very nice presentation.
And all of you here is
a color. Like people spot on, both in the model and in the fact. Sir?
And to answer numbers of you who have spoken today, it matters to all of us. And we are Americans, we have differences of opinion. And we've been in this profession for a long time, many of you as well. You think a different thing than we do. I just said a few things about how I think this building beautifully frames the legacy of Robert E. Lee, who matters to me very, and it does so in a way that no other structure could. And so that is why we have done this today. So, Mr. Chairman, what do we do next?
We call the next case. We clear the room of people who are, well, whatever, give people time to leave if they want to leave. We've got the next case I can call, maybe give just a couple minutes for people to. Oh, we do need to remove the model as well, like, because it is in little pieces, it'll be relatively fast. We need to let them in the boxes.
Just leave the motion, leave the matter. Yeah.
Does the next guy need it?
Yeah, let's just leave it.
Oh, I just told him to clear it. You want to put it back?
Thank you.
Yeah, just leave it.
It's just cool. That's what we asked, so yes, they will. Yeah, they're on one after the other.
Oh.
Have a very good day, man.
Was it done by, historical, students here, big huge, somebody said, so I can do this about this. Their versions. Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah. It's just.
Each other's.
I do that. It's wrong.
Get out of here in a second.
Right next to it. So at the previous review of this project in January of this year, the commission members emphasized the Potomac River's historic and scenic significance, which requires a high aesthetic standards for all the river crossings. And they asked for more study of a more open design for the section of the rail bridge near the historic swing span to encourage views up and down the river. They also urged refinement of the bridge, the pedestrian cyclist bridge cast concrete piers to appear less utilitarian, suggesting stone or more elegant concrete form, while expressing support for the bridge's pile cap design. So overall, there was wide support for the proposed landscape design. They emphasized the importance of maintaining public recreational access to the river, particularly during national holidays. So in response, the project team has done work to refine the proposal and respond as they can with more accurate renderings and information, as well as studies regarding the structure options for the bridge and the piers. Pier supports. I'm going to introduce today Laurel Panic, who is Acting Deputy Associate Regional Director for Lands and Planning at the National Park Service National Capital Region.
Thank you, Secretary. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Laurel Panic, as Secretary Lukey said, with the National Capital Region. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. The National Park Service has been involved in the Long Bridge project for many years, both as the land manager and as a steward of a nationally significant federal lands and resources within this important corridor. This is one of the region's most important transportation corridors and one of its most visible. It connects communities across the region while crossing a nationally significant landscape along the Potomac River. It's a place where critical infrastructure, public access, and iconic civic spaces all come together, which makes thoughtful design especially important. Our role has been to help ensure this project advances critical transportation capacity and regional mobility while remaining compatible with surrounding federal lands and protecting the public experience of these nationally significant places. Today's presentation reflects continued refinement of the design in response to the feedback from this commission, with the goal of advancing a durable, well-integrated solution that respects the historic setting and landscape character of the corridor. We appreciate the commission's continued guidance and look forward to your feedback today. With that, I will turn it over to Shirley Cleveland to continue the presentation.
What's a microphone? I think that's fine.
If you could speak a little closer to the microphone, please.
Let me know now.
Yes, thank you.
All right, good morning, Chairman Hook,
and Vice Chairman Perry and members of the commission. Thank you for having me today. I'm Shirley Cleveland. I'm the Senior Director for the Long Bridge Project. Thank you to Laurel Hammond for that warm introduction and for the years of collaborative partnership with the National Park Service on this project. I'm also joined today by members of the Long Bridge Rail Partners team, which is our design build team overseeing the design and construction. With us, we have Fred Parkinson, who is the design manager, and also Ben Fitz, who is our design build integration. We want to thank the commission for your time and engagement in January. Today, we are coming back with direct responses to the 2 design questions you raised at the January meeting. But before we consider design, we would like to spend a few minutes discussing the project's importance to the region. The Long Bridge project addresses one of the most critical rail bottlenecks in the country. You can see from this map that our project not only serves Virginia and the DC metro area, it is a critical rail connection for both freight and passenger rail, bridging the north and south and connecting the East Coast to major markets like Chicago, Memphis, and Atlanta. 2 new tracks will cross the Potomac River, doubling capacity, improving on-time performance for Amtrak and DRE, and removing the constraints that exist today of separating passenger rail from freight. This slide shows the regional context for the project, as Long Bridge is ultimately a link in a chain of projects, increasing rail capacity south of Union Station. Right now, there are 3 tracks south of Long Bridge, then 3 tracks through the L'Enfant area north of Long Bridge, until the rail system branches into 2 tracks toward Union Station for passenger rail, and 2 tracks heading northeast for freight rail. But here in the Long Bridge corridor, there are only 2 tracks, and every train, whether it's Amtrak, EORUM, or CSX, has to share them. If we want more rail service, we need more tracks. On the right-hand side is the future rail corridor. To the south of our project, CSX is currently constructing a 4th track. To the north, DRE will construct a 4th track as part of the L'Enfant Station project. And you will see that project for concept review, not next month as coming months. These 2 projects, together with the Long Bridge project before you today, will create a continuous 4-track corridor, 2 tracks for passengers and 2 tracks for freight. Zooming in even further, here you will see our project map. What we call the Long Bridge project is actually comprised of 5 rail bridges and 2 pedestrian bridges. On the left is our starting point in Arlington, Virginia, near the Long Bridge Aquatic Center. From there, we bridge over the George Washington Memorial Parkway and Mount Vernon Trail, across the Potomac River, and pass through East Potomac Park. We then cross over I-395 in the Yellow Line Metro, over the Washington Channel, and into DC, passing over Main Avenue and out near the Maryland Avenue Overlook, before ending just south of L'Enfant Station. The existing historic Long Bridge will remain in place and continue to be owned and operated by CSX, primarily for freight rail. The new 2-track rail bridge will be owned by BPRA and used primarily for passenger rail, but all 4 tracks will be interoperable. The project also includes a dedicated bridge for cyclists and pedestrians as mitigation for parkland impacts, connecting Long Bridge Park and the Mount Vernon Trail in Virginia to East Potomac Park in DC. The Long Bridge has been part of the city's story for over 200 years. The first bridge built here was authorized by Congress in 1808 and signed into law by President Jefferson, opening in 1809 as the longest bridge in the United States at that time. It was a wooden toll bridge. For decades, freight moved across it by force boats. It was burned, flooded, and rebuilt many times. British troops burned it during the War of 1812. The Civil War brought it into military service, where it was used to transport troops, wounded soldiers, and supplies. A parallel structure was built for train use in 1863. Later versions of the bridge would carry carriages, streetcars, and eventually electrified rail service, though that electrification was later retired. Today's Long Bridge dates back to 1904 with significant modifications made over the past century. While the bridge was repeatedly damaged by ice and floods, with spans replaced and structures rebuilt, it has continued to meet the demands of each new era. This is the Long Bridge as it exists today, a 120-year-old structure carrying over 70 trains a day, operating at near full capacity. On the right, you can see the corridor from above, which helps orient the location of our new bridges in relation to the existing infrastructure. In the picture on the left, you can see the exact space where our 2 new bridges will sit, in between the Metro Yellow Line Bridge and the existing office. This rendering orients you to where our project sits in relation to the many other bridges spanning the Potomac River in this corridor. From left to right, you will see multiple highway bridges, I-395 South, the 14th Street Bridge, I-395 northbound, and then the yellow line Metro Bridge. To the right of the Metro Bridge, you will find the two new bridges constructed by our project. On the left side is the pedestrian bike bridge, and on the right is the new two-track rail bridge. On the far right is the existing long bridge owned by SIMILITUDINEM. This cross-section shows how the bridges are oriented to run another the Potomac River. At the bottom, you can see the listed distances between the bridges, which are drawn to scale. This is an additional cross-section and a standard plan view, again showing how the bridges are oriented to one another on the river, and demonstrating that we are working in an already severely constrained waterway with many existing bridges that have impacts above and below the water and river bottom. We've been working on this project in some form since 2011, 15 years of planning, environmental review, community engagement, and coordination with many stakeholders, including this commission. The project began with DC DOT as a large portion of the project areas within the District of Columbia. It was handed over to the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2021 to complete design and construction. Construction is imminent. Permits are in hand, and the first step of building the underwater bridge foundations slated to begin this summer. Given its large size and to facilitate starting work on the longest duration elements as soon as possible, the project was split into two construction packages, North Package and South. Long Bridge North Package previously received CFA approval. Final documentation has been coordinated with CFA staff to ensure that the design and construction packages conforms with the Commission's approval. Today, we are here to ask for approval of the South Package, which includes the rail bridge and the pedestrian bridge over the river. The timeline demonstrates our coordination with CFA to date. CFA has been a stakeholder on this project since its earliest phases, dating back to 2011, and has been a formal consultant body since 2020. During the environmental review phase, consensus on the design framework was reached with NPS, NCPC, and this commission, as well as with a long list of stakeholders. In 2013, a consensus was reached that the new bridge should not be a signature bridge. Rather, it should be as unobtrusive as possible, complementing rather than competing with the elegant structures of the district's monumental form. That consensus shaped every design decision that followed, such as that stylistic elements should resemble the historic bridge, but translated to a structure built now, with granite cladding on the piers and weathering steel to the earth rivers. In 2020, we received concept approval from the Commission at a 15% preliminary engineering phase and incorporated the feedback we received. In June 2025, Long Bridge South returned to the Commission to show the progress from 30 to 60% design, and the Commission supported those design refinements. In January of this year, the Commission raised two important design questions. Today, we returned with our response. And with that, Ben Fitz, the contractor's design build integration manager, and Fred Parkinson, the design manager, will discuss the design and our responses to the Commission's input.
Thank you, Charlene. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ben Fitz, and I am joined by our design manager, Fred Parkinson. Fred and I will walk through the structural design elements today and show you exactly how we've responded to the feedback that we received in January.
Before getting into those details, we want to take a moment to highlight core design objectives that Charlene described, namely compatibility and respect for the historic railroad bridge. This is achieved through the carefully considered shape of the piers, the granite stone cladding applied to the substructure elements, and the use of weathering steel girders that will age to complement the existing structure. Now we'll turn our attention to the Commission's January comments. We received two questions regarding our design, and we've studied both thoroughly. We will address them in order. First, the view of the existing truss, and then the column design for the bike ped bridge.
Vice Chairman McCreary raised a question in January of whether the new rail bridge's through plate girders might obstruct the views of the historic swing span truss. He suggested studying whether a more open structure at midspan could provide additional vantage points of the truss section of the existing long bridge. We looked at this corridor from every angle a Washingtonian or a visitor to the nation's capital might experience it. We went out on the river via boat. We drove the nearby I-395 bridge. We observed the truss from the nearby parks. The following slides will show you these views in detail. These are water level photos taken both downstream and upstream of the existing bridge. The view in photo number 1 on the left is looking downstream, as if you were traveling south from Georgetown. This view shows the multiple bridge layers that are almost entirely obstructing the view of the truss today. The Long Bridge project will not have any additional impact on this already limited view.
Alternatively, looking upstream, as you can see in photo 2, creates a real architectural focus. The historic swing span rises clearly above the horizontal deck lines of the existing bridge. In the background are emerging views of the Washington Monument and the Jefferson Memorial. This view of the truss highlights its place in the monumental core. The importance of this view was recognized at an early stage of the project when we ruled out placing the new bridge south of the existing Long Bridge. By placing it between the existing bridges at nearly the same height, we were able to preserve the impressive view you see here.
This is the view you would see today from a boat traveling downstream beneath the northbound I-395 bridge, looking towards the Metro Yellow Line Bridge and the existing Long Bridge. You can see the timber fenders flanking the navigation channel to the right, and the historic truss is partially visible in the background. From this perspective, the fender currently partially obstructs the view of the truss.
And this is the rendered view from a similar vantage point after the project is built. The historic truss remains partially visible above the new bridge's girder line. The new bridges add a layer to the corridor, but the truss is still clearly visible where it projects above the other superstructure elements. Note that you can see the new pedestrian bridge in front of the rail bridge.
This is another existing view looking upstream at the Long Bridge from the Potomac River. This view is comparable to what someone might see on the Mount Vernon Trail in Gravelly Point Park, looking out from the river's edge. Washington Monument is clearly visible to the right of the truss.
Observing a train crossing the historic rail corridor against the backdrop of the monumental core stirs a unique sense of excitement and importance of place. Preservation of this view and the unique experience that it provides has been a fundamental objective throughout this project's development. The subsequent slides will demonstrate how the project achieves its objective. And here is that same upstream view now with our new bridges rendered in place behind the existing bridge. Because the new bridge heights are similar to those of the existing bridges, the best view of the truss is preserved. The historic swing span remains clearly visible above the new bridge deck, and the truss continues to read as a distinct element on the skyline. We believe this demonstrates that the through girder design promotes the historic structure and does not diminish its presence.
And here we'll see a third vantage point, driving along northbound I-395, one of the most heavily traveled corridors in the region. This is the view that thousands of drivers, whether in passenger vehicles or tour buses, see every day as they travel into the district. You can see the existing Long Bridge and the historic swing span in the middle distance above the Metro Bridge and in front of it.
And here is a similar view with the new bridges in place. The new rail bridge sits to the right of the driver's sight line, and the swing span remains visible in the distance. As you can see in this rendering, the existing Wilmotto Metro Bridge is the highest structure in this view and has the greatest impact on the sightline of the truss. The two new bridges, both positioned below the Metro Bridge, will not affect the view of the truss from this vantage point. This rendering depicts the experience of someone walking on a new bicycle pedestrian bridge, looking towards DC from near the Aquatic Center in Arlington. The Washington Monument is visible on the horizon to the north. Pedestrians and cyclists will have a view of the monumental core as they cross the Potomac River from the Commonwealth towards the district. Part of that unique view is the historic truss. Its emergence from the weather girders below creates visual interest. Turning to look back toward the existing Long Bridge, this rendering shows what someone on the bike head bridge will see when a passenger train passes by on the adjacent structure. The truss is visible just beyond the new rail bridge. The weathering steel is a unifying design element present on both structures, effectively bridging the gap from the historic Long Bridge to the new Long Bridge.
And this is the view headed northbound into DC on the new passenger rail bridge. The bike ped bridge is visible to the rider's left, with the Washington Monument standing tall on the horizon. To the right, you can see the swing span truss of the existing Long Bridge in full, at close range, unobstructed, from a vantage point that no passenger has had before.
And finally, on a train headed southbound, the swing span comes into full view as a passenger train departs the district. This may be the clearest and most dramatic view of the historic truss that the project creates. Rather than diminishing the truss, the new bridge actually frames it, promoting its significance as passengers ride past. Whereas today's passenger trains travel through and beneath the truss span elements, the perspective from the new bridge will give passengers an up-close view of the truss in its entirety. And now we will turn this back to Shirley to summarize the various conclusions and recommendations of the Commission on this element.
That's right. Having studied the views from all angles, from the water, from the highway, from the bridges themselves, we recommend retaining the through-plate girder design. The through-plate girder design achieves the aesthetic and safety goals of the project. The design is able to withstand bridge strikes and derailment events better than a truss or other more open bridge design could. In the wake of the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse, the structural resilience of bridges over navigable waters is not just a concern, it is our top priority for a bridge carrying 70+ trains a day over the Potomac River. For users of the bike pedestrian bridge, the girders also provide meaningful protection from train noise, dust, and debris, making the crossing a more comfortable and enjoyable experience. And on the historical context question that the Commission raised, we hope that views we just brought to demonstrate that the through-plate girder design does not diminish the truss. From the downstream view, the girders actually keep the visual focus on the existing truss by receding into the bridge corridor, and the bridge creates new views of the historic truss that passengers, cyclists, and pedestrians have never had before. For all these reasons, we ask for the Commission's support on the design. And with that, should we keep going, or do we want to talk about this issue right now, so we move on to the
Normally you would just finish your presentation.
So with that, Madam Fred will now present our consideration of the Commission's second comment regarding the pier design for the bicycle pedestrian.
Surely. The Commission's second comment in January concerned the appearance of the bike pedestrian bridge piers, which were described as utilitarian. Vice Chair McCreary requested a design that was worthy of a national scenic river. Chairman Cook suggested a more sculpted form, something that would read as simple and elegant. The Commission recommended studying design modifications to the round columns that were previously proposed, including considerations to make them a more elegant shape. We heard that feedback and are returning to the Commission with 4 alternatives and a recommendation. This is the design the Commission reviewed in January, which for this presentation we refer to as the baseline. The design is a cylindrical cast concrete column, 5 feet in diameter. The Commission noted that the round column felt plain in comparison to the history of the Potomac River and the monumental core surrounding it. It was suggested that we study an option with a more octagonal shape. That feedback was our starting point.
Option 1 is a faceted column with an octagonal profile. It moves away from the plain cylinder while retaining clean and simple lines. The flat faces catch light differently throughout the day, adding visual interest and depth. It also echoes the faceted geometry of the pier's pile cap that sits above the water surface. This option builds directly on feedback from this Commission. Chairman Cook noted in January that the octagonal pile cap for elegant suggested continuing that direction up into the column. We believe that option 1 does exactly that. Adds the same geometric language upward from the pile cap into the column, giving the pier a unified appearance from the water line to the deck.
Option 2 builds on the faceted column by adding recessed panels to each face. This introduces additional shadow and articulation. While this adds more detail than option 1, the column still reads as clean and simple from a distance.
Option 3 returns to the cylindrical form, but adds vertical ribs, giving the column a more classical character. While the ribs do add visual interest, We found that the grid profile introduces a decorative quality that feels at odds with the project's established design vocabulary, simple, unobtrusive form.
Finally, option 4 combines the faceted form with wider, more pronounced ribs. Of the 4 options, it carries the most visual weight. While the features do create visual interest, the added complexity begins to draw attention to the pier in a way that competes with the overall bridge design rather than supporting. Once again, I'll turn it back to Charlene to summarize VPRA's conclusion and provide closing remarks.
After studying all 4 options, we recommend option 1, the faceted column. Its octagonal profile unites the angular geometry of the rail bridge and the rounded character of the yellow line bridge, sitting comfortably between the 2 existing structures. It is visually clean and simple, echoing the faceted pier base, and the flat faces add visual interest and light reflection without drawing undue attention to the pier itself. It moves meaningfully beyond the baseline cylindrical column while staying true to the 2013 design consensus to build a bridge that allows the historic rail corridor and the surrounding monumental pole to remain the visual focal point of the river. With that, we ask for the Commission's support of the faceted column pier design for the bike pedestrian bridge and the Long Bridge South design as a whole. And with that, Commissioners, in closing, we've been working for this moment for a long time. We are grateful for CFA's partnership in shaping this project. Today, we are requesting the revised concept approval for the Long Bridge South project. And again, thank you for your time and consideration. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are you controlling these? Will you go back to, I think it's number 2.
Option
Yeah, 2 for option 2.
Sorry.
Column option 2. Is that the one you were talking about?
It went so fast, I didn't get.
Yeah.
So the,
So it's an
Mr. Chairman, just the
it's an
difference
octagon.
between option 1.
Option,
Yeah. Option 1 is a octagon, and then 2 has a panel in it also.
Right, so option 1 is the faceted, so we're moving from round to an octagonal shape. Option 2 adds what we call recesses or window boxes into those spaces.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
In your discussion on slide 13 and 14, there was an indication there was a commitment to have granite foundations for the bridge. See the, in your renderings. Of the options, we see granite on the new railroad bridge, but not granite on the new pedestrian and bicycle bridge. No, it's seen, but I understand there was a commitment for granite on the substructures of the bridges at CFA in one of those earlier bullet points. So the commission records will show that that they're explicitly only for the railroad bridge, and that granite would not be used for the pedestrian bicycle bridge.
I don't know that explicitly said that it would not be used for the bike pedestrian bridge, but previous concept approvals that we received were for the concrete pillars.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, we could go back to the pictures again. I just want to be able to follow Vice Chairman McCurry's what he just stated, the difference between the two. Do you have a better?
Between one bridge and the other.
The option.
Well, the options, but the difference between the two bridges, I was confused. I was not a commissioner in January, so.
Maybe your cross-sectional, very cross-sectional diagrams that show that. Yeah, go back to.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
So what, I was just asking, sorry, I apologize. I was asking, they've committed to granite here. It sounds like they've committed to granite. I think that they probably committed to granite for the bridges. They've shown granite here. They're not showing granite here. I think it'd be nice if they did. But apparently not.
And may I ask why you're using two different materials?
I guess the main reason is, at the time the decision was made, is that you told us we had these granite for the rail bridge, but not for the bike pedestrian bridge. We want to keep that structure lighter. That was always the comment at the time, to make it look lighter. And inherently granite makes it look heavier. And Tom, if you want to jump in on that, but that was our intention.
I don't recall exactly, but I do know that granite was never proposed for the bike pedestrian bridge. I know that the discussion with using granite on the rail bridge was to make it similar to the other rail bridge. Probably, if I'm not mistaken, the pedestrian bridge was more a lighter character, somewhat like the metro bridge.
Right, I remember at the time.
But I can't remember the detail.
You complained that we made it look too heavy and clunky, and so always our challenge was to try to make it look lighter.
Yeah.
And the granite cladding that does the opposite. Maybe a little better.
Thanks for the clarification.
Could we go to the choices again? Next, that's 3. 1, 2, 3, or ABC,
That's 3.
yeah.
And this is 4.
Okay, the one with the panel, when you go back to that. Commissioners, what do you think?
I have another question about the material. So the existing metro, the foundation for that is concrete? And on the pedestrian bridge, this is also concrete? One looks very light and one looks like granite to me. Is that accurate or?
Granite one is the bridge.
No, I know what granite, but this is the granite color. I'm from New Hampshire, so that's what granite looks like in New Hampshire. The color, so the concrete under the metro looks very white to me. And then the concrete underneath the pedestrian bridge is more gray.
Yeah, the intention here is that it will be natural concrete finish, which the Metro Bridge has been out there since the mid-70s, I think.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be weathered to a different grade than whatever we cast now.
So part of this is probably just rendering, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably match.
Concrete doesn't turn white, is it?
No, but it's also got light on it. You can see all this is the way it's shaded for this rendering.
I would suggest this is not very accurate.
Yeah.
At all.
So-
By the way, Mr. Chairman, there is one public comment I need to work in before you take an action.
Okay.
I don't, whenever you want to do that.
Are we ready for that? I think
I
we
think
are.
if you're in the middle of your discussion.
Well, are we? I think we're close to finish.
If you can go to page 5. And this isn't new commentary. This is something I've been talking about in your presentations for a long time. You mentioned there are 5 bridges here, beginning with the span over the George Washington Parkway at the left, and then I think that's South Capitol Street on the far right.
So there's one bridge.
On the
that
mic,
extends
please. On the mic, please.
Charlotte.
The one bridge, the rail bridge, it spans all the way from the TIBI Parkway, all the way to across the Channel River. Then we have the bike pedestrian bridge, that would be the second bridge. We're building a new bridge over I-395, a new rail bridge, the bike pedestrian bridge ends right here. And then for the next 3 bridges, we are actually rebuilding the existing rail bridge. Taking that down and rebuilding a 4-track bridge at each of these places, like Ohio Drive west, Ohio Drive east, Washington Channel and Union Avenue. And then we're also rebuilding this pedestrian bridge over Union Avenue because the widening of this bridge takes the existing one. So we're moving it into a new location. So there's a second.
So these 2 will be new. That's a new one.
Yes, these 3 will be brand new.
Yeah.
This will be new. This will be new, but we will retain the existing 395 bridge for freight. This is where the.
Right, but it's split.
Yes.
It's split, yeah.
And then across the way.
Okay, so my fellow commissioners and I, when we met earlier on this, we would really like some explicit commitment from you all to do what's required to make this bridge look beautiful. And do what's required to make this bridge look beautiful. And there is a bridge down here in South Capitol Street. It'll be really nice if you do what's needed to be done to make it look beautiful. It's rail infrastructure. It would seem to me that you would want its structural integrity taken care of over the very long term. You would want to keep it clean. You want to keep it free of rust, or reasonably free of rust. But they go for decades without apparent maintenance. And they become unattractive. So that some people believe that truss span is ugly because it's in such bad shape. I don't disagree with them. I think it's beautiful in its architecture and its structural form. But it is, you've heard me say enough. What kind of commitment can you make to the District of Columbia, to this commission, to just civilization, that you're gonna take care of your bridges?
Well, I have to say, it's not our bridge, it's CSX's bridge, so we can try and have that conversation with them to encourage them.
Oh, okay.
to maintain the bridge.
I thought everything got turned over to the Commonwealth
No,
of Virginia.
no.
Oh, then I apologize for falsely accusing you. I sincerely apologize. Well, let's trot the CSX people in here next time. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Buster. Thank you. So now, Mr. Secretary,
Yeah.
we are at, do we have one?
We have one comment from Lieutenant Howell Hunt of the National Council of Negro Women. If you could just come up to the stand and speak into the mic.
Good morning, commissioners. Commissioner Polk, Commissioner Chair, Commissioner James McQuarrie, Commissioner Harris, and Commissioner Pamela, Mr. Taylor, and Mr. Secretary, and to all the wonderful people who are concerned about art, which is what we really are all here about. I want to take an opportunity to thank the CFA for what they do. This is a complex job because it's about a necessity, but also giving it history and provenance to the object. So it's a difficult job to do. Appreciate what you do, even though you may not hear it. I want to talk to you all about the pedestrian bridge for Virginia Railway. I'm looking forward to running over the bridge. But I want to make sure safety has been included in the plan. And you say, well, of course, but working with the domestic violence shelter and some very horrendous things in the inner city, we asked the police, why weren't you there? Why weren't you protecting? Why weren't you surveilling? And they said, well, we really had no idea that part, city or country was there or whatever, was the excuse. So I thank you that as you are designing, especially the pedestrian piece, that we're looking to the safety elements for the women runners, especially. That, it's nice to run at, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but someone training for a marathon is going to get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I pray that you will have, communication with the police departments, the National Park Service, and all of the security components as you are designing the pedestrian bridge, to make sure that there is surveillance, to make sure that bridge the pedestrian piece is going to be safe if she decides to go for a morning run. And if I could say at the end, I would mind just sending y'all an email. If someone would want to communicate with me for any details. I thank you for your time. My name is Lieutenant Helen Hart. I'm also with the Negro Women Warriors Real Intelligence Technology Services. And have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And so now we'll move to, okay, I do want to acknowledge, I think I see Walt Cronkite in the audience, comes from a very distinguished family of journalists, welcome to the Commission of Finance. Where to next, Mr. Chairman?
Well, it's before you for action. Maybe you've got these outstanding questions. It's up to you. I mean, this is in for a revised concept. What the last commission did at this point was take an approval, make its decision, and then delegate the final review.
Right,
But
so
it's,
you've got
again,
this column choices, really,
Yeah.
that if
You-
you could go back to
and-
those and, really, let's take a look one more time. You found it right. Okay, so, the one with the panel is my favorite with the octagonal shape, but I'll defer to any commissioners that might want to add.
I would like to hear what Commissioner McCreary thinks.
No, you don't. I think, I'll just be very candid. I think this is a very de minimis, response to our request for, serious attempt to redesign a beautiful, bridge, piles, a great number of them in the river. And I don't like very many of them. I don't like them. I would have liked there to be a much more serious undertaking. It's, they're decorating 4 different tubes. And I'll consider it to be a redesign. So I'm having to defer to whichever is the preferred design of my fellow commissioners and observe that we've been outlasted by the applicant. In my view.
Are there any other views with the proposed columns?
Not in this presentation.
Can you go to the one that's got the more Gothic, verticals, that one? And it's not another one like that, is it?
Jump to the wider.
Yeah, if you went back one to that, had you thought of having a lot of space in between each of these? I'm not sure if the exercise is, what do you think, James? I would suggest it spaces and caps on something similar to that. Is that possible on something like any of these?
You're suggesting changing the spacing between the ribs?
Well, that would be interesting, but also a base and a cap that would be at the bottom and top of it. And that one, or the one that has the recessed cap.
That's not something we explore.
Right, or you would have shown it to us, but is that an easy fix for you to do something simple like that?
I would not describe it as easy.
How many columns are there across the Potomac?
22.
So how many feet in between?
The spans are roughly 90 feet.
90 to 110, they match the spacing of the rail bridge piers.
Yes, please speak on the mic if you're going to speak.
Yeah, the Ped Bridge piers follow the spacing of the existing railroad bridge piers for scour flow issues. So the spacing varies from roughly 90 to 120 or 140 feet, match the existing pier spacing.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have a preference on any of these columns? Express mine is this one.
None of the above, but I would hate to see this project delayed, so I would say that option one, in my opinion, is better matches what's above it. Thank you.
I agree with Pam on option one.
Okay, would
Just
you
to-
like to make a motion,
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'll move to accept option one for the piers on the pedestrian bridge.
All right, have we a second, Jim?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Oh,
I'm not.
you should,
We're voting on this column first.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to, you can just vote on the whole
Just the whole
thing
thing
and
at
then
once.
say that you want. I prefer you just taking one action.
Well, okay, but we're doing it now. So, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. No,
Abstain.
and one abstention. Okay, now, Tom,
Yes. Now, the action that's actually before you is the project as a total, the Southbridge component, which is in for this revised concept. Sorry about the feedback we're getting. So that's before you now to take an action, approval or not, and then to decide whether you want to review it again as a final design, or do you want to delegate that as you did the north part after its revised concept approval? It's just the way you want to see it at that.
yeah, but we're
In detail.
ready to move on.
Yeah.
And so, let's approve, the project and, what is the language that's required for that?
Just that you're voting to approve the proposed design, including that option that you just voted on. And you're delegating the final review to the staff. And of course, when you delegate, you understand, we on staff look at it carefully, and if there's anything that is, anything, substantially different, we come back to you and say this, we'll go to them and say this has to come back to the commission because it's not what they approved at this revised concept phase.
So I, make a motion that we approve the design as shown with the, previous vote on the column. And it will go to staff to make sure that everything is in compliance with everything that we just discussed. And, is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and it's just a little, 12:13, should we just move on to the last
Yeah,
case?
let's
I think
move on.
we should take maybe just a sec to bring in the new applicants.
They don't think they know what it's a school.
Oh, I'm sorry, both the school projects were acted upon at the beginning of the meeting, so we will now be following up the Shipstead Loose Act case, for the Embassy of Saudi Arabia.
I wouldn't, yeah, since all.
oh, samples.
Which year?
Almost. There's a reason why.
Yeah, they're trying to make. Oh, I can do
We can get into this for the record. Oh, it was approved before the meeting, I mean, at the beginning of the meeting.
That's my, that's just.
Thank you.
Information, I'm going to say them, really, questions.
I could only imagine the poem, will only for these documents. But I don't know. All right, are we ready to begin? Okay, Mr. Chairman, the last case is submitted to us under the Shipstead Loose Act by the DC Department of Buildings. This is case number SL 26100. This is the first time you're seeing a concept design for the renovation of the Embassy of Saudi Arabia in the Foggy Bottom neighborhood of Northwest DC. The property is located on a triangular shaped lot at the intersection of Virginia and New Hampshire Avenues near the Potomac River, and across from the Trump Kennedy Center, the Watergate Complex, and Columbia Plaza. The five-story building was designed in a strict classical style by prominent local architecture firm Mills, Petticord and Mills in 1959 as the headquarters of the People's Life Insurance Company. The symmetrical building of a semi-governmental character features Georgia white Cherokee marble cladding with metal windows and a simple cornice at the top. The fenestration composition and central volume with the marble piers emphasizes verticality on the west and east facades. In the early mid 1980s, the Saudi Arabian government purchased the building for embassy use. So today, this is actually a fairly substantial renovation. Property would entail window replacement, enlarged pedestrian and vehicular entrances, security screening, upgraded service entrance, vehicular acts, perimeter security, terraces, rooftop solar, very comprehensive scope. For the exterior, the design is focused very much on the entry sequence and announcing that part of the building. The transformation of that image includes installing triangular sunshades with geometric motifs on the windows and adding angled glazed volumes at the existing and east and west portals. They are intended to add space to the basic envelope of the building to locate security screening outside that volume of the historic building. So, and there are options to look at the design of those portals. There's also incidental, the mail screening and other freestanding vehicular screening facilities are going to be added, and I'll go through that. I'm going to go ahead, they've brought materials, I'll let them explain those. We'll go ahead and I'll introduce it. I have Emilio Stokes. Okay. Are you introduced? Are we just going? Okay, so Emilio Stokes is introduce the project manager at HOK. Or you're not going to introduce? Okay, we had your name as the introducer, sorry. Mr. Roger Schwabacker, design principal at HOK, will introduce the project.
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Roger Schwabacher. I'm the design principal HOK at our studio in Washington, DC. I'm here to present to you our renovations for the embassy of Saudi Arabia on New Hampshire. I want to start with the site plan orienting where the existing embassy is located. It's a wonderful site directly east of the Watergate and northeast of the Trump Kennedy Center. The front doors of the embassy are on New Hampshire Avenue, and then also in the back, and it also borders F Street on the south. So the existing embassy, or the existing building, as Tom mentioned, was designed in 1959 by a firm called Mills, Petticord Mills. And we've done extensive research on this firm and their ideas behind the original building, because we really want to be respectful of the architectural heritage of what they produce. But unfortunately, there have not been a lot of maintenance or upgrades to the building since it was originally built. So the windows are single pane windows and they're very inefficient for heat gain into the building. There's a lot of leaks. There's a lot of cracks of that white Cherokee marble. The landscape is in disrepair. So it's really of upgrades to be worthy of its current occupants and their mission in Washington, DC. So to give you a little background about the firm of Mills, Petticord Mills, they have two additional prominent buildings in Washington, DC. The first one was the former headquarters of the National Association of Broadcasters, just south of DuPont Circle. My firm, HOK, actually did the renovations of this building and did a deep dive, into the theories behind what they were doing, really trying to respect the verticality of this building, the seamlessness between the spandrel and the vision glass. And you can see on the right, on the left was the original facades, and on the right is the renovation of this. More applicable project might be their additions to the National Museum of Natural History, which was originally designed in 1910. They did the two wings on the sides in the 1960s. And I think this is a very applicable example of their architectural style. It was done after our building that we're discussing today. There's a very similar manner of a base, middle, and top to the building, and verticality to the fenestration, sort of repetition to the fenestration. So to get into our analysis of the existing building before we began our design, they had some very simple tenets behind what they were doing with the facades. There's a strong sense of symmetry in the building, a very prominent entrance in the middle, and then the repetition of windows that are equally spaced on either side of that central entrance. There's a clear base to the building with square windows at the bottom, a clear middle with these vertical stacked windows with spandrel panels, and then a top to it all. That vertical entry was something they repeated often on their projects across the country in Washington, D.C. And then the timeless materiality of it. The entire building is clad in stone. This is a white marble, white Cherokee marble. So this is the west elevation facing New Hampshire. And this is the east elevation, which is similar. The big difference here is there's some topography across the site. You can see the steep topography going towards the south. And you can see that the entry on the east elevation is slightly different. Instead of a series of punch windows, this is a singular glass infill within a frame. On this one, there's a photograph direct to with the elevation. So we took these as clues about what to do as we embarked on a renovation. So the trick of this project for us as the designers is how to balance a deep respect for the existing building with the mission and kind of the use of our client, who now owns the building as the embassy for Saudi Arabia here in Washington, D.C. So personally, I've had about 15 years of experience designing buildings both here in D.C. and in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. I think that's part of the reason we were selected to do the project. And when we design things for the Saudis, go back to they established what they call the Salmani Code after their former king, King Salman, who established 16 major tenets of what he thought reflected Saudi ideals and Saudi architecture. Now, these 16 tenets, there's 8 that I think are applicable to this existing building. Some of them are not applicable because they would be for new construction, but there's 8 for renovation that I thought were applicable, and I'll walk you through. The first is stepping the facades. And you can see examples on the screen of traditional and modern Saudi architecture, how the building steps. This series of stepping, we've started to recreate in our facades. You'll see with the entry portals, with the sunshades, a series of layers on the building. It's a very traditional Saudi tactic. Deep setbacks, obviously, when you design in the desert, which is not DC, but this is very traditional. A deep setback really helps shade the building, so the building gives natural shade to the glass. So this is one of the tenets that we looked at as we designed these portals and these sunshades. Verticality is a major tenet of Saudi architecture. These vertical wing towers and vertical elements on the buildings. Color and materiality. I mean, every building from a historic perspective in Saudi Arabia is the sand color, regional materials. So we try to incorporate that into the design to really reflect their culture, have something that really resonated with the diplomats working there to increase the relationship between the two governments. And then geometry. The Saudis have one of the birthplaces of math and science, and they have strong geometry and a lot of their patterning on the building, especially triangular patterning, can be seen in a lot of their traditional architecture. So we try to incorporate that into the science. And then shading, shading elements, obviously, to reduce the heat, in that. So how do we apply that to our project? How do we balance between the two, Washington, DC, and Saudi Arabia, to really give this project a meaning for both worlds? So you can see on the left is the existing site plan, and on the right is our new site plan. We focused on 6 main areas as we started renovating the building. The key ones are the west and east entrances, where these portals are located. I really wanted to celebrate the entry points and make it very clear for people to come to interact with the embassy. We also, on the east side of the building, added a few landscape garden elements. We have a garden outside of their cafeteria, and we have a terrace outside of their auditorium. And these are heavily screened from the public with landscape elements, but these are new elements added on. And as Tom mentioned, there's security concerns. So we are rebuilding what they call CACs, or compound access controls. I designed U.S. embassies around the world, the terminology for applying them CACs. So we have both a mail CAC, that's where the services are delivered to the building, and what we call a business CAC, and that's where people come to interact. That's where pedestrians and VIPs. So for the floor plans, fortunately, the interiors of the building is redacted, but we're really just talking about the exterior skin of the building, which you see noted in red, placing all of the windows. On this slide, we're placing the west entrance, the stairs on the west side of New Hampshire Avenue. Here you can see that the building has steep topography. The top side of the slide is below grade at this level, the ground level. When you go up one level, that's where this entrance is. So we're placing the east entrance and the steps on the east, and then we're adding those 2 compound access control or CAC buildings on the east side. For the elevations, straight on elevations, and I'll be showing you a series of 3D perspectives to help everyone understand our proposed interventions. On the bottom is the existing elevation, and on the top is the renovations. So what we're doing is we're taking window elements and replacing the window elements. We're adding shade structures to those window elements. And we're taking that infill glass in the center of that entrance and making a new expression for the embassy with that central element. We're also adding a fence around the entire compound for security of the service. Here's the east elevation, again, existing on the bottom, new on the top. Similar strategy to the west. And then we'll show you the north and south views of this. You see on the new, the portals on the east and west project out, adding some square footage. Then sections through the building to help understand the site. You can see that on the west, we're 1 story lower than the east, and there's also some basement levels to the building, which predominantly have the mechanical. And a section, excuse me, section through one of the compound access control. This is actually the loading dock. And as I walk you through the loading dock expression, how it's needed, there's an elevator to bring you down to the bottom level for service. So today I have 3 options to present to you for the expression of what we're doing on the facades. So this is the view from the west. And we'll be talking about that entry portal on the west, the frame and the glass infill. We'll be talking about the window expression and the sunshade expressions, and then the security fence and the expression of the fence. So 3 major elements of what we're touching on the facades. And these elements, especially the portal, really tie both to the DC mid-century modern examples I've shown you from Mills, Petticourt Mills, reinforcing that symmetry and that central entry, making a prominent vertical as Mills Petticourt Mills did on their projects for the entry. But it also ties back to the Saudi pillars, Saudi tenets that I was discussing, of deep setbacks, of verticality, of color and materials, and that triangular pattern. So for the first option, you can see we added on to the building a projected frame around the entrance. This frame is clad in limestone as opposed to the original white Cherokee marble. And the idea of this is that there are two bars of the building. Bar going north-south is the original bar with the white Cherokee, and the bar going east-west is now completely clad in this limestone, making the intersection of DC culture and the Saudi culture as the crux of the building party. See in the center of that frame, we've taken out the punched windows and have a glass infill inside of that in a similar way we did to the windows, the punched windows around the building. So we're taking that glass, it's actually projected out. We needed to add for functionality, space on the ground floor for security screening. Security screening doesn't want to be underneath the building where you're underneath occupied space before you're protected and secure. So that needed to come out. And then our design progressed to show tapered form to that glass, very graceful tapered form, in order to achieve the transition from the ground floor to the other floors. So option one is with the limestone, triangular patterning in the stone panels, as opposed to the white Cherokee marble. Option two, if that seems like too much of an intervention with the limestone, have a second option that shows we took the white Cherokee marble, wrapped it around the exterior of these two portals, and only where we carved into the volume of the building is where we introduced that limestone. So it looks like the building is predominantly the white Cherokee marble, and you're carving out the negative space is that limestone material with the triangular patterning. So we have the running bond patterning wherever we have the Cherokee marble, and we have the triangular patterning wherever we have the limestone. And then our third and final option is if we didn't do the additional portal around that, treated the main entries in a similar way that we're treating the punch windows on the rest of the building, that keep Cherokee marble wherever it was, keep the cornice, keep all those original details, and we change just where the glass is being inserted into the building. So it's a similar strategy of what we're doing for the punch windows and for the main entry. In pure elevation, once again, we're just showing you from New Hampshire what it looked like. Option one with the all limestone version of the north-south axis. Or I'm sorry, the east-west axis. This version very subtle, but it had the white marble at the edge, and the center is the infill with the limestone. Or if we didn't do the portal element, it just concentrated on the center element. And then to the east. So this expression of language comes from the west all the way across to the east. Option one, a very similar way for the frame, is all limestone in this one with the triangular patterning. You'll notice that the glass infill on this one is canted out to really respond to the entry to the site. This is the main entry for VIP visitors, diplomats. The west entry is for the public and for the consular functions. The east entry is for diplomatic functions. We wanted the entry to clearly face the front door where you come in. We relocated the drop-off circle in the landscape, reoriented everything, so that clear progression into the building. That's the reason for the canvas glass. It also adds some additional square footage into the building, which the client requested. You notice on the glass, we have that triangular patterning, not just in the stone, but also in the glass expression. Second option, identical to what we did on the west. We have the white marble coming across the edges, to carve away as the limestone. Or the third option is to keep the original granite as the frame and just have the glass infill be the development. So to talk about the glass, and the sunshades, we do have a frit pattern, a ceramic frit pattern on our glazing. This frit pattern ties back to that triangular notion we were talking about in traditional Saudi architecture. It increases the privacy, for functioning of the embassy. And was a request from the client. And it also mitigates some of the heat gain, coming into the building. And then we have sunshades on the majority of the windows, or all of the windows besides the entry. We have these metal sunshades with very similar triangular patterning, tying the language. Then moving on to the compound access control and the fence. We have two buildings on the east side. The one on the left is the public entry. One on the right is the service entry. What we've done is we've taken that white Cherokee marble and put it on the main buildings. And then you'll notice on the right, we also have, that's where the service and loading dock is. We clad that in a darker black granite to help fade it into the background. Since it is a little bit taller in order to have access for trucks and that elevator to bring you down into the service areas below the building. But we want to reinforce the main compound access control buildings and have that fade a little bit into the background.
Roger.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're about halfway through. This is supposed to be a 20-minute presentation, and then we're barely halfway through. Could we ask you to just speed it up a bit? Yes. Thank you.
With the three options of the stone, you can see we've reduced the scale or patterning of the stone on the low of the building. We've been introduced kind of piers to the fence from comments from CFA said. Materiality of the building, the option of the limestone. We have the materials all here. We can touch base on them if you go for questioning. And then the third option, we remove the limestone and just have all the other materials. So you have the marble, granites, the glazing, and the warm color on the sunshades. View at night, first two options, and the view of night, the third option. So we do have a lighting strategy for this building with its prominent position in the city. I want to quickly run through. We do have signage on the building, so I thought it was appropriate to present to this commission. Signage, we do have pin-mounted metal signage onto the stone, both the east and west entrances. We have pin-mounted signage very similar on the compound access control buildings, announcing for clarity where you are and where you're coming into. And then for the landscape, I just wanted to touch on the fence as a prominent thing in landscape. So we do have a fence now 360 around the property. They were having a lot of security concerns of people entering their site. We're not authorized to do so. So we have main entrances, at the west, you have the steps coming up to the main entrance. We do have a garage entrance on the south, then you have two vehicular entrances on the east. The fence, we're doing stone-clad piers on the fence, kind of a gray color, so not the white of the building, but not heavy, it's gray colored stone on the piers of the fence, and then it's metal picket built. It's an anti-climb fence sign. There you can see the cadence of the piers. We have a hierarchy of pier sizes as we go around the building. Here's a view of the fence, final design. Landscape materials, all very durable, all very timeless. A lot of granite and stone. We have granite cobbles and granite pavers around the building. We do have these two landscape elements I want to touch on. So we do have this garden element off of the cafeteria, which is a low stone clad wall with high landscape around it for the privacy of people sitting there. And we also have this terrace off of the auditorium. It has the structural elements holding it up. We have these V-shaped columns holding it up, tied back to the triangular forms of the sunshades and glass roofing. And of course, we have a lot of existing trees. We have heritage trees and significant trees in the project, which we're doing every effort possible to maintain those trees. I think there's just two of them we need to remove for today's project. but we're very cognizant of doing so. And that's the presentation I have today. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you very much. So, Mr. Secretary, we are concept.
This is the first time
Right.
first time you're seeing it. So yeah, concept is on the table. There's the main thing, of course, are the three options for treating the main entrances and a few other things. Fence options, as you mentioned, we've met numerous times to just try to refine the proposal, get it to so that we thought was reasonable for you.
Right, so, if we could, in these elevations,
Yeah.
the primary ones, and so these screens too, I saw you pop up when we saw the, other side of it that showed the sun and just how those are shaped.
Yeah. Well, maybe,
Yeah.
are you asking me?
Oh, no, I'm just commenting,
Yeah.
because I couldn't quite tell what's going on with all the shading on the building of what you're putting there. Can you go back to the other side of the building so the other commissioners can read it?
The east side?
Any side, that'll do, that'll do. Yeah, I didn't quite understand how you were doing those windows until I saw this.
So we are replacing all the glass, and then on top of the glass, another layer are these sunshades to mitigate the heat gain. You know, the building is it's existing. Normally, we wouldn't plan a building with major facades facing east or west, but it's an existing building, so we need to mitigate the heat gain. So
I can't follow this, what it actually looks like.
So can you point out to, I'll do my best, but,
Okay.
yeah, who's got that? Thank you. Yeah, so this is a projecting triangle. And this attaches to it. And there is nothing on that side.
Correct.
And so that goes back to the examples they were showing us earlier as to these sorts of forms in this culture that will add to this building in a way that will help shade the sun out of direct sunlight. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I understand why they're doing it and the cultural, but I still can't figure out what this would look like. Is there any better picture? I'm looking at the darker version on the right. I should have the microphone on.
The darker,
So
the darker is the actual mesh. And if you can imagine sort of triangular pieces that tilt out.
So how far out would that, the top triangle, so we're looking at the long windows here.
Yep.
How far out does that?
So the top of the triangle is flush, top mullion, and then it comes out in 3 dimensions. So it slopes down and out, probably
By 2 feet.
about 2 feet. At the farthest out point, it's about 2 feet away from the glass. So it's a real 3-dimensional element on the building. So it slopes down and out as it comes down, and this one slopes to meet that point. So that's the farthest most point on the sunshade in the center, about 2 feet.
Okay, that's cool. Does this exist on any other building in Washington, DC?
I don't believe so. No, this is a custom detail that we've designed for the sets.
And I have one more question. Mr.
I'm
Chair.
sure.
Do the Saudis have a preference on the options that you have presented?
They do. They like the first option the best. They like the second option the second best, and they like the third option.
Okay, can you run those facades
Thank you.
by us again?
So they like the limestone because that really ties to their culture and the materiality of their country. They like this bold entry as very prominent, and they basically signed off on this one. We created additional options after meeting with CFA staff. So the second option, once again, is we wrap the sides of it in marble. They just kept the carved away part center as limestone. And then the third option is just removing that altogether.
And then it's not an atrium. Those floors come out in the extension of central glass, do they not? Or is it?
It's not an atrium, no.
Yeah.
So we have the lobby on the ground floor and different programmatic spaces as we go up.
can you show, the existing facade, please? I think it will help. A photograph, preferably.
Sure. So this is the existing west entrance, and this is the existing east entrance.
All right, so though, this reveal is there, you're keeping.
Right.
Does that reveal travel down the side?
Yes.
The sides? So the masonry opening is like, you're not altering the masonry openings at all, right? I was having hard time remembering because there's so many images, and I'm grateful for that, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, so this is east, right? And it has the single big opening.
Correct.
And this is west, and it has a series of larger, but not single large, not one big giant single thing.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So we're taking the idea that was established on the east and applying it to both.
I see. Yeah, okay.
In current condition, they have a stone on the spandrel, but we're doing spandrel glass and vision placement.
And are you keeping this stuff? Because it's quite nice.
So we would like to keep it. It's not ADA compliant, so we have to rebuild it in order to make it safe. But the configuration is very simple.
Could you ramp that? It looks pretty general.
So we actually have an ADA lift we're incorporating within the stair to make it work.
Okay, so you could keep it.
I think there are other considerations. Mechanical system, the fresh air intake is currently coming through some of these elements. Since we're redoing the entire interior of the building also, we're redoing the entire mechanical system and have to rebuild it in order to bring fresh air to meet code at a certain level above the street.
Is this building on is this recognized building, no historic?
It isn't.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it could be, I don't think it's even color.
I think that could do well for an NC. I know it wasn't built or designed for an NC, but it could do well for them. Okay, thank you. Is your fence line, this is just questions, not comments. Is your fence line the property line?
Yes.
I would imagine that security people would like the fence to come out closer to the sidewalk. But you have to do what you can only do what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, from a security point of view, you want people as far away or dangerous things as far away as possible. Can't build.
And did you look at walls instead of only or only fences? This is all fence stuff, right?
So where we ended up was a series of piers.
Yeah.
And filled.
But did you study wall design?
We looked at, yes, we looked at many different options, and what we concluded was we wanted to not focus on the fence. We didn't want people to focus on the fence. We wanted the fence to disappear as much as possible, so you really look at the building. So that's why the black metal seems like the best strategy in order to have the fence fade away, so you can see the landscape. But we wanted it also to seem worthy of an embassy, not just be a metal picket fence, like in an industrial area. And that's why we have the stone piers integrated with a hierarchy of piers.
If you're answering, we be on.
Yeah.
The landscape architect, Kara Smith on the project.
Tell us your name. What's your name?
Sarah Smith.
Tara Smith. Hi.
I just wanted to speak up because one of the reasons why we did not go with the wall is because of all of the heritage trees that are on the site, and having the pier option would help to protect the critical reasons of those trees. So we wasn't even happy with that. So.
Yeah, I mean, that has to do with the foundations needed for each of those walls, and we're very careful not to disturb the root zones of those heritage trees.
So, James, I'll have a little chat with you. We have a federal mandate of classicism in the city. This is, an interesting mix of all of the above. And so the client, your client, wants the least of the classical expressions that you've done here. Is this one done because of the president's? Yeah, okay. Well, you complimented it.
Yeah.
Honestly, you did it quite well. And it shows the one that has.
And the building has the stepping in it, you know, I mean, it's already there. That's a good building for them.
Yeah.
You may have improved it with this, and it shows the middle ground that has. And you say Carolina, or no, Cherokee marble, I'm assuming that's Georgia marble one hopes. Just asking.
No,
Yeah.
It's not.
the basic building is.
Right.
That's the sand.
I know that's.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but this one has a surround of marble, and then the other one is entirely limestone, is that right? Yeah.
So option 3 could be. Option 2, where it's all marble.
Say that again.
Go back to option 2. Okay, so apparently there's 2 desires here. One is this shape that you borrowed from the east side. I think the west side is the better looking facade, but you're borrowing this strategy from the opposite side of the building, and then you're rendering it in a form stone. Okay, I know it's probably Indiana limestone, right? Okay. What if have you explored this design so that it is the whole thing? If you do this, the whole thing is the same as this.
Yes, we have.
And that's not a preference.
No, so yeah, we started this presentation with CFA staff with 8 options and narrowed it down to 3 that are most preferred. But one of those options was the entire thing, all in the white Cherokee marble with this form.
Yeah.
And another one of those options was to remove the triangulation of the shape of the stone and make it all stacked.
Yeah.
May I add one thing? My name is Untitled. I'm a project designer for with HOK. Hello. So if I just add design idea behind this frame is so it's a couple of things, not only for the shape. This is about materiality and the geometry. So the material is based on is not just form. It's kind of a referencing their Saudi desert sand. It's like here. This is from the rear. We try to match.
No, we get
it. Yes. And that's one of the things. Also, pattern is part of their fundamental life culture. So our client see this one as a kind of it's really provide the sense of welcoming with the injection of the Saudi identity in a very subtle way. And also in terms of shape, if I add a little bit about the shape, we kind of introducing this angle wall as a device to funnel people as a natural, kind of guiding people toward the entrance. So the MOPA is very proud of this one as a 10-year, their prototype of their future embassy design as well. That's why they really have a strong preference for this design.
And just to clarify, I said MOFA, that's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's our client setting.
Okay, could you show us option 3 again?
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, they came with 8, we actually asked them to reduce it to a comprehensible number that's partial. I don't know if we even saw that second one. We on staff had actually asked to look at this more because this keeps the Georgia marble piece, and there's a lot of insertion going on within the window frames consistently across the building, front and back. We thought it was a reasonable compromise to the building and then allowing this expression. It's up to you how far you want to take that.
Commissioners probably agree with you, and that would certainly be my first choice. Commissioner,
I don't.
You don't. Which one do you?
Speak for me.
Which one? I'm sorry. Which one?
Yes, please.
Carry on.
this is only for concept today.
Yes.
And, you know, I would like to get some guidance because this is an embassy. I don't know if that's called out in the EO, or if there are any exceptions in the EO. There aren't.
My understanding is that it applies specifically to federal projects. This is not, you're right, this is coming to us under the Ships to Lose Act, which means that it's a private building.
Right,
Where
there's no federal funding in this project,
Yeah.
so. My preference would be to respect the Saudi embassy's wishes to incorporate their architectural preferences.
Commission.
I actually like, the option 3 for architectural reasons, right? I don't have the whole, inverted archway, it's very, I mean, I'm not, when I see this, I see the Arc de la Défense in Paris, I'm not seeing Saudi. You say it is, okay, I'm looking at the Arc de la Défense. It's really the memorable shape here. It's Parisian modernism. I like Paris and I like modernism, but it's Parisian modernism. It seems interruptive to the architectural integrity of the whole as you design it, not as it is now, but as you design it here. What I see here is a really lovely, beautifully restrained and elegant art, and I mean all of this, right? Architectural solution of the mason within the masonry opening to the building. This thin stuff captures the layering, the stepping, the triangulation, the geometry, the light, the shade, all of that stuff. I mean, it's a pure force. These are one, right? And that they all are oriented in the same direction. So the tools would come and do a symmetrical, I want to see, well, can you do something cool up here?
Sure.
Keep trying, man. Obviously, you can do it. But there's just a simple, straightforward clarity here that's really, really fantastic. I think that the go back one, it sort of jumps the shark. And that there's just a really powerful, confident restraint. Go forward one, please. To this. It's very, very. And then I'm going to say, can you see these cheek walls? Great. And I mean, honestly, I would say have great stairs here. Maybe this could be the white marble, but then this pathway can come up the side here and come up directly instead of chopping up that beautiful symmetrical arrangement that you have.
So the original, you're correct, the original steps are white marble.
Yeah.
Marble's not best material to
I
use in
understand.
landscape. It's
Yeah.
porous, it's not.
So give it a grand base.
So we turned into a great granite for durability, for timelessness, to really set the landscape materials apart from the building materials. That was an intentional move.
Interesting. You can try, there's white granite. We heard a lot about it earlier. You could try, let's see, take a look. Maybe take another look at it version. Can you go to the back side of 2 and 3? And here I'd say it again, I think that this, right? Okay, so you're gonna do this, okay? Cool. And I think it shows itself so much better as other than and new with respect to the original building than does go back one. That everything. Whereas the 4-1, lovely. You're gonna go and mess it down. It's your compliment. I know everyone expects me to be, outspoken classicist, and I am, but I also say that when you see good modernism, you've got to be able to really say, this is good, right? I think this is really good. Those are my thoughts.
Agreed. And so, and that we are concept, Commissioner McQuarrie, would you like to make a motion and see if we can study which ones, that the Saudis can carry on with? That's okay.
Yeah, with with regard to, with regards to, respectful regards to His Excellency the Ambassador, you've honored to meet him, wonderful human being. I would strongly recommend and move that you proceed with option 3 and continue to develop these principles, including some sort of potential softer, but treatment to the upper windows. And then also to explore walls in addition to fencing along the perimeter for this, in order to provide the security. But the option 3 is it's the direction that I would recommend that you all pursue.
Okay. Pardon me.
I was just thanking him first.
Right, okay, and that is a motion.
That is a motion.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I am opposed.
Okay, and are you an aye or are you?
voted in favor.
I personally prefer. My vote was an aye. I personally prefer option 3, but I thought option 2 was a good compromise between what the Saudis wanted and the nature of the classical.
Right, and with the comments, they suggested they're gonna come back with some additional adjustments to option 3. It's a beautiful design, and we appreciate you coming.
And thank you for bringing materials.
Yeah, these are beautiful too.
Very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the agenda for the day. And so with that, we're gonna have an extremely big agenda. We anticipate in June. So, lots of stuff to launch with. I don't know if there's any other comments.
Thank you. And
thank you
all of you again. As always, we appreciate it.
All right, with that, we will be adjourning the meeting. Thank you, and we will see you on June 18th. That was that. Thank you very much.
Princess Ambassador. It's okay.